Chapter 377. One sword breaks 10,000 laws. The turmoil ends. I never expected that after all these years, having escaped the pursuit and killing of the Heavenly Sword sect, I would actually stumble here. But I also know that now there's only one choice. As long as I break through the marketplace blockade, I have an escape secret technique, and there's hope for survival. Otherwise, even if I fight desperately with Lu Changsheng, we're both headed down a path of certain death. At once, the burly man activated several talismans. Next, holding a red long knife, he broke through the offensive of the patriarch of the Yu family and hurled a heavenly thunder pearl toward the weak point of the formation, aiming to blast a hole into it and seize the chance to escape. Boom, boom, boom. The heavenly thunder pearl landed at the weak point of the formation, causing deafening and continuous explosions. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, Lu Changsheng's seven-colored giant sword slashed down like a tsunami, breaking through layers of defenses cast by the gray-robed female cultivator. Up against such an assault, the gray-robed female cultivator had long been unable to hold on, her face completely bloodless, her body swaying, clearly at her limit. The heartfelt bond between the husband and wife indeed made Lu Changsheng feel quite emotional. But he showed no mercy. With a low shout, the seven luminaries' heart lamp above his head burst forth with blindingly brilliant light. The central lamp flickered, as countless sword chi poised and ready to strike erupted violently at that moment. Wish, wish, wish. The sword chi was like the wind, and the murderous intent was like a tide. Each strand of sword chi contained a peerless killing intent, capable of taking lives. At that moment, when hundreds of strands of sword chi were unleashed together, their power was incredibly formidable, so much so that even an average foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator would struggle to defend. Thump, thump, thump. Under the onslaught of the seven-colored giant sword's attack, the already faltering gray-robed female cultivator faced this tumultuous sword chi, and instantly all her defenses were shattered, her body pierced, and blood sprayed out. The golden light mirror overhead, showing cracks, dimmed completely upon losing its master, and fell from the sky. The tide-like deadly sword chi continued to target the burly man. Fellow Taoist, spare my life. Am willing to sever my arm and hand over the storage bag. Seeing his wife dead, the burly man in gray robes lost all his previous domineering demeanor, his expression filled with utmost panic. His black spirit armor pulsated, forming a black membrane barely resisting the sharp sword chi, as he cried out loudly. Without waiting for Lu Changsheng's response, he directly took up his magic artifact, and with a swift movement, severed his own arm. Chop! But Lu Changsheng was indifferent to this spectacle, as the seven-colored giant sword continued its relentless assault. Bang! The burly man's severed arm suddenly exploded at that very moment, turning into a splatter of blood that enveloped his body and propelled him away at high speed. He fled through the hole created by the large explosion at the weak point of the formation. He wasn't foolish. He knew that pleading to Lu Changsheng wouldn't spare his life. Therefore, through the pretense of pleading for mercy by severing an arm, he actually performed a blood escape secret technique. Where do you think you're going? The patriarch of the Yu family, who had been watching the battle, immediately took action upon witnessing the scene. The red-yellow disc and the ice-blue crescent wheel flew out simultaneously, blocking the hole at the formation's weak point. He had been prepared to intervene throughout the ordeal, fearing that the burly man would escape. Leaving aside whether Lu Changsheng would blame him, the current situation was such that if the burly man were to escape, he would surely come back to seek revenge on Red Leaf Valley Market, taking vengeance on their four great families. Being targeted by a foundation establishment great cultivator looking for an opportunity for revenge would leave any family restless. Just as the patriarch of the Yu family's spiritual artifacts obstructed the burly man, endless seven luminaries' sword chi surged toward him, sealing him off from all directions. Then, the seven-colored giant sword instantly chopped down cleaving him in two as if sundering heaven and earth, with blood spattering everywhere. Dead. 2 Foundation establishment cultivators have fallen. Sword cultivators, there are simply 2. It's finally over. Everyone watching this scene found themselves at a loss for words. This battle was like a one-sided crush. Lu Chongqing acted, and it was always with a single slash. The 2 Foundation establishment robber cultivators faced that slash, yet could only continuously defend and parry, their every move shattered by that one slash. The robber cultivators who had caused chaos before, the loose cultivators who had turned themselves into robber cultivators, went pale when they witnessed this scene. Knowing that the turmoil was now suppressed, they would next face the reckoning of the Red Leaf Valley Market and the 4 great families. Father, mother! A young man in gray robes saw this, and his eyes turned bloodshot, filled with immense grief. He hadn't expected that his parents would both fall here. Father, mother, if you hadn't been trying to gather Foundation establishment resources for your child, you wouldn't have had to rob the marketplace and die here. Rest assured, your child will definitely succeed in achieving Foundation establishment and will seek revenge for you. The young man in gray robes took a deep look at Lu Chongqing and the patriarch of the Yu family in the distance, hatred filling his eyes. He then quickly found an empty alley and changed his disguise. Having spent so many years adventuring with his parents, committing numerous acts of murder and arson, he knew that now, with the market's unrest suppressed, the law enforcement cultivators of the 4 great families would begin to settle accounts with the robber cultivators, and he had to hide well to survive this purge. To disturb my rest and dare to threaten me? Lu Chongqing sneered coldly, arrogant and domineering. As he spoke, he reached out his large hand and collected the bodies of the burly man and gray-robed woman, their storage bags and magic artifacts, pocketing them all. Afterward, he turned to look at the patriarch of the Yu family nearby. He considered whether to kill the patriarch of the Yu family. After all, the relationship between the Yu family and the Lu family had never been good, and he also had an old grudge with the Yu family. If he were to eliminate the patriarch of the Yu family, it would also remove a major enemy of the Lu family. Thank you for your help, Senior. Chapter 378. One sword breaks 10,000 laws. The turmoil ends. _4. The elder of the Yu family, seeing Lu Chongqing looking at him and sizing him up, immediately felt panic rise in his heart and spoke with horror and trepidation. His form of address changed from the originally used fellow Taoist to Senior. After all, in such circumstances, he truly dared not consider himself equal to Lu Chongqing. Didn't you say that there would be a substantial gift for me afterwards if I took action? Now that I have eliminated 2 robber cultivators for your market, the substantial gift should be presented, right? Lu Chongqing thought for a moment and dismissed the idea of slaying the patriarch of the Yu family. One reason was that killing him would lead to chaos in the market. Moreover, the 4 major families, aside from the Yu family that had 2 Foundation establishment great cultivators able to station 1 at the Red Leaf Valley Market, the other families didn't have any spare Foundation establishment cultivators. If he were to kill the Yu family elder in front of him, the patriarchs of the 4 major families would probably have to rotate to oversee the market, which would also affect the Lu family. Furthermore, with his current strength, he did not fear whatever the Yu family might do. When the time came to settle scores, whether they had this Yu family elder or not wouldn't make much of a difference to him. Yes, that's only natural. The patriarch of the Yu family said with a sigh of relief in his heart upon hearing Lu Chongqing talk this way, and hurriedly added, knowing that the other party wouldn't act against him. But hearing Lu Chongqing mention the substantial gift, he felt somewhat distressed and apprehensive. He didn't know how much of a substantial gift would be sufficient to satisfy the menacing figure before him. Senior, please wait a moment. I will prepare your gift right away, the Yu family elder said through gritted teeth. He knew that a heavy loss was inevitable. If worst came to worst, he could have the 4 major families chip in for this expense later on. You have a quarter of an hour. They'll give you 15 minutes. During this time, they'll keep an eye on the robber cultivators in the market for you, said Lu Changsheng indifferently. Yes, thank you, Senior. Please wait a moment, Yu Yuanshan replied, not daring to delay. He immediately transformed into a streak of escape light and departed to return to his cave dwelling and shop to prepare the substantial gift. In the meantime, Lu Changsheng had also moved to another location where he took out his spiritual pet bag and collected the carcass of the green wolf, a second-rank demon beast he had just slain. A demon beast's body was a treasure trove. It could be used not only in talisman making and alchemy, and for forging magic artifacts, but also its tendons and bones could serve as the main body for constructing beast-shaped puppets. Such a second-rank demon beast, even just selling its materials, could fetch several thousand spirit stones, and he naturally wouldn't waste it. Shiyu, you go back first. After finishing all this, Lu Changsheng transmitted his divine sense to Xianxia, telling her to return to the cave dwelling to rest in peace. Immediately, he stood beneath the 7 luminaries' heart lamp with his arms crossed and patrolled above the marketplace. Whenever he detected the scent of blood or hidden robber cultivators, the 7 luminaries' heart lamp would shed strands of sword qi, bringing their lives to an end. In a short while, Lu Changsheng had slain 8 robber cultivators, gaining a modest harvest. Senior, this is the gift prepared by our marketplace for you, a modest token of our regard. Please accept it. By this time, the Yu family elder had returned, offering up 3 storage bags. Lu Changsheng took the storage bags and glanced inside. The first storage bag contained spirit stones, approximately 10,000 of them. The second storage bag held various items such as talismans, elixir medicines, and assorted spiritual materials. In the third storage bag, there were several glazed porcelain vases and embroidered boxes, which held relatively precious and rare elixir medicines and treasures. Lu Changsheng estimated the total value to be about 30,000 spirit stones. The amount of spirit stones was not considered a lot, but for the financial situation of the Yu family, it was already a very sincere gesture. All right, I accept your gesture. Farewell. Lu Changsheng nodded and, without saying much more, transformed into a streak of light, arriving at the place where the burly man had fallen. He struck at the weakest point of the formation with a sword, creating a crack, then left the market and disappeared into the night. Phew! Seeing Lu Changsheng depart, the elder Yu released a deep breath of relief. Although the presence of such a great cultivator made the market much safer, Lu Changsheng's recent demonstration made him appear as a harbinger of death in the elder's eyes, someone he truly didn't dare get too close to. Afterward, he commanded the market enforcement team. Now, everyone secure the market and start patrolling for robber cultivators and assessing the losses from just now. Chapter 379. The Shock of the 4 Patriarchs. _1. Lu Changsheng left the Red Leaf Valley Market, and upon seeing no one around, immediately disguised himself, concealing his magic aura entirely. He then took out a second-rank Qi-sealing talisman and a stealth talisman from his storage bag, and used them on himself. Of course, he couldn't actually leave. Now that the disturbance in the marketplace had ended, Lu Miaoga, not having seen him, would surely be worried. Moreover, the 4 great families would definitely be inspecting the marketplace next. If he wasn't around, unnecessary trouble might arise. As expected, it hasn't recovered so quickly. Lu Changsheng quickly returned to the Red Leaf Valley Market. Seeing the huge crack he had previously cut at the weak point of the market's great formation still there, he breathed a sigh of relief. He had deliberately made that slash before as a makeshift exit for himself to use upon returning. Within the crack, 2 energy refinement late-stage cultivators could be seen standing guard. But he, a Foundation Establishment great cultivator, had not only concealed his aura, but also had a second-rank Qi-sealing talisman and a stealth talisman, so naturally he wouldn't be noticed. Lu Changsheng silently slipped back into the marketplace. Afterwards, he found a secluded alley, tied up his loosened hair, changed back into his blue magical robe, and restored his handsome and imposing true appearance. Is this a failed Foundation Establishment attempt? Lu Changsheng walked out of the alley and headed towards the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Looking up at the sky, he saw the vortex of nature's spiritual energy above the core cave dwelling area slowly dissipating. This situation indicated a failed foundation establishment attempt. Indeed, with such a commotion just now at the marketplace and the Great Formation operating at full capacity, not only did it cause a disorder in nature's spiritual energy, but also greatly affected the mindset of those attempting foundation establishment. The transformation of spiritual liquid into mana, supporting the Tao Foundation, cannot tolerate distractions. A single mishap can lead to failure in foundation establishment. With such a huge commotion in the marketplace just now, how could they not be affected? Lu Changsheng shook his head. Knowing that the person had not taken a foundation establishment elixir, now that foundation establishment had failed, if they didn't die, they still would be abolished. Even if they took a meridian protecting elixir to protect the meridians and Dantian, reducing the risk of death, they still had to face the situation of damaged meridians and Dantian, with cultivation levels rolling back. If there was no great opportunity, it would be almost impossible for them to break through foundation establishment again in this lifetime. It's said that this person has a 4th grade spiritual root and is only 49 years old. Among loose cultivators, they were in the prime of life. Now that foundation establishment has failed and all savings are spent, even if they don't die, the rest of their life will be very difficult. Lu Changsheng slightly shook his head, feeling somewhat emotional inside. Most loose cultivators trying to break through to foundation establishment were not only risking their lives, they were also staking all their lifelong savings on it. Uncle Yuan Shan. At that moment, Lu Changsheng saw several law enforcement cultivators coming towards him. The man leading them was a one-armed, dignified man with a weathered face. He was one of the core members of the Lu family, Lu Yuanshan. Although he had lost an arm, his energy refinement 9th level cultivation was still formidable. He was positioned in the Red Leaf Valley market by the Lu family to serve as the law enforcement leader. Changsheng, what are you doing here? Upon seeing Lu Changsheng, Lu Yuanshan gave him a few glances and then asked. Earlier, when the marketplace was in turmoil, after Miaoga and I checked our own talisman shop, I was about to go and see the situation in my own spiritual talisman shop. Just as I left, a fight broke out involving foundation establishment cultivators, so I had to hide on the side, and only now do I dare to come out, Lu Changsheng spoke. How could Miaoga let you go check the situation by yourself? Upon hearing this, Lu Yuanshan frowned and said, the recent situation was very dangerous in his view. As the leading talisman path expert of the Lu family with only 7th level energy refinement cultivation, how could Lu Miaoga let Lu Changsheng wander around under such circumstances? Any mishap would be a tremendous loss for their Lu family. In his view, it was simply too reckless. It was an emergency at that time, and besides, I had talismans with me. As long as I didn't encounter any foundation establishment cultivators, there basically wouldn't be any problems, Lu Changsheng said somewhat sheepishly. The Lu family might not reprimand him, but chances are they might still address the matter with Lu Miaoga afterwards. Although it's safe now, there might still be robber cultivators hidden in the shadows. Come with me, and he'll escort you back first, Lu Yuanshan continued. He didn't doubt or check on Lu Changsheng. After all, they were family, and he knew him through and through. Furthermore, with Lu Changsheng's appearance and demeanor, he didn't believe that he could be someone else in disguise. Thank you, Uncle Yuanshan. Lu Changsheng nodded. Then Lu Yuanshan, accompanied by a few law enforcement cultivators, escorted Lu Changsheng back to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Changsheng, Uncle Yuanshan. Lu Miaoga was at the first floor of the talisman shop waiting. Seeing them approaching, she immediately opened the formation. Miaoga, how could you let Changsheng check the situation by himself? You saw the commotion in the marketplace just now. What if he had an accident with a robber cultivator? Lu Yuanshan said with a stern voice upon seeing Lu Miaoga. The tone in his voice carried a note of reprimand. Though Lu Miaoge was an energy refinement 9th level cultivator and a talisman master herself, she was nonetheless the junior he had watched grow up, so such a reprimand was within reason. Uncle Yuan Shan, it's my fault too. Sister Miaoge told me not to go, but I thought with talismans at my side, there would be no issues. Lu Changsheng, expecting Lu Yuanshan to admonish Lu Miaoge after the fact, was surprised when Lu Yuanshan began to reproach her upon meeting. Knowing Lu Yuanshan's concerns were well intended, he immediately spoke up to smooth things over, taking some of the blame. All right, I won't say more. You two stay put in the shop tonight. And if there's trouble, send me a message. Lu Yuanshan's expression remained austere as he spoke, gesturing with his hand, and proceeded with his patrol. Yes, Uncle Yuanshan. Uncle Yuanshan, please take care. Chapter 380. The Shock of the Four Patriarchs. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge nodded. Changsheng, are you all right? Lu Miaoge looked at Lu Changsheng, her beautiful eyes filled with concern. She thought that Lu Yuanshan had brought Lu Changsheng back because he had encountered some danger. I'm fine. I just ran into Uncle Yuanshan on the way. He saw I was alone and worried for my safety, so he offered to escort me back. Lu Changsheng gently shook his head, offering a wry smile. Uncle Yuanshan is always stern and rarely smiles, but he means well. Lu Miaoge spoke out. She had a great deal of respect for Lu Yuanshan. If it weren't for Lu Yuanshan bringing back the main ingredient for the Foundation establishment elixir from the Purple Shadow Secret Realm, Lu Yuanzhong might not have succeeded in his Foundation establishment. One could say that Lu Yuanshan had indirectly saved Qingzhou Mountain. I know. Lu Changsheng nodded his head. He had had several encounters with Lu Yuanshan and knew of the man's character, which was actually quite decent. Changsheng, did you see the Foundation establishment battle just now? After sitting down, Lu Miaoge and Lu Changsheng started to chat casually. She had just seen the images of Lu Changsheng fighting the two robber cultivators at the spiritual talisman shop. Though the view wasn't very clear, she was able to get a general idea. Of course I saw it. I was actually quite close to the location at the time. I never imagined there would be such a formidable sword cultivator living right here in the marketplace. Lu Changsheng clicked his tongue in admiration. Indeed, two Foundation establishment robber cultivators and a second-ranked demon beast. If it weren't for that sword cultivator, the marketplace would have been in danger. I've heard that although sword cultivators are unmatched in combat, they're only invincible among their peers. This sword cultivator, slaying a second-ranked demon beast with a single stroke and cutting down two Foundation establishment robber cultivators by himself, must be no ordinary sword cultivator. I wonder if he could be from the Heavenly Sword Sect, Lu Miaoge said somewhat wistfully. The Heavenly Sword Sect is the largest immortal sect in Jiang country. All the cultivators from this sect are sword cultivators. So generally, when people mention powerful sword cultivators, most would think of the Heavenly Sword Sect. It's possible, although the Heavenly Sword Sect is quite far from here. It could also be a loose cultivator wandering through the mortal world. Don't the stories often write about sword immortals who travel the world, slaying demons and exorcising evil? Lu Changsheng said with a laugh. After chatting for a while, Lu Changsheng turned to Lu Miaoge and asked, Sister Miaoge, do you want to become a sword cultivator? He knew that the cultivation technique Lu Miaoge was practicing was called profound water art, which is a high-grade cultivation technique. The magic barrier during the Foundation establishment of a cultivator is related to the cultivator's technique. The more formidable the cultivation technique, the more robust the mana, making this barrier easier to breach and the transformation of spiritual power into mana simpler. While a high-grade cultivation technique won't hold one back, it doesn't provide much assistance either. Now that he had successfully established his foundation and possessed some strength, he didn't mind passing on the Saturn Solar Sword technique from the Seven Luminaries' Great Freedom Sword Scripture to Lu Miaoge. The Saturn Solar Sword technique, though just an exquisite level cultivation method, being a lineage of the orthodox level Seven Luminaries' Great Freedom Sword Scripture, is considered one of the top methods among the exquisite level. It offers some help during the magic barrier of foundation establishment. Moreover, as Lu Miage's profound water art would need a follow-up technique after reaching the foundation establishment stage, adopting the Saturn Solar Sword technique now would mean she wouldn't have to worry about subsequent techniques. While sword cultivators are formidable, I am not fond of conflicts, so I haven't really considered becoming a sword cultivator, Lu Miaoge said gently, her demeanor as calm as water. Although sword cultivators possess overwhelming combat strength and excel in offense, certain qualities and a specific style are required. They demand a resolute and unwavering spirit. If one's temperament is weak, even with the practice of sword techniques, their combat effectiveness will be mediocre at best. Sister Miaoge, you probably noticed that the cultivation technique I practice isn't greenwood art. Actually, I acquired a sword technique in a fortuitous secret realm, and what I've been cultivating is that sword technique. Lu Xianxia continued to talk to Lu Miaoge. The combat power he demonstrated previously, instantly subduing several robber cultivators, was clearly beyond what one would expect from practicing greenwood art. Greenwood art is more geared towards health and vitality, with average combat capabilities. A sword technique? Lu Miaoge was a bit surprised but felt it made sense. After all, the combat strength Lu Xianxia had exhibited was quite extraordinary, beyond that of ordinary people. Her stunning face smiled warmly as she said, "I never imagined my husband would also be a sword cultivator. Xianxia, your decisive manner along the way showed hints of a sword immortal's grace. Maybe in the future, you could be like that sword cultivator just now." Lu Miage's eyes were filled with love, admiration, and doting as she spoke, her gaze stirring the heart. This sword technique belongs to the exquisite level. If you need it, Sister Miaoge, I can pass it on to you. Cultivating this technique could help you when you attempt foundation establishment later on, Lu Xianxia said with a smile. While it's true that sword cultivators have specific temperamental styles, it's not to say one couldn't cultivate them if they don't fit perfectly. It's just a matter of how potent it will be. Cultivating the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, even if not quite suited, would still be better than ordinary high-grade cultivation techniques. An exquisite level cultivation method. Lu Miaoge gasped, visibly surprised. She was well aware of the preciousness of an exquisite level cultivation method. At Qingzhou Mountain, they only possessed a few high-grade cultivation techniques. Even these few techniques had cost the Lu family a great deal and much effort to obtain. After all, in the cultivation world, very few are willing to externalize and divulge their family's techniques. Now that Lu Xianxia was casually offering to pass on an exquisite level cultivation method to her, she felt moved. Sadly, after looking through that technique just once, the inheriting jade slip self-destructed. Chapter 381. The Shock of the 4 Patriarchs. So he'll come to teach you myself later. Lu Xianxia didn't wait for Lu Miaoge to reply and continued speaking. He didn't carry any jade slips or jade scrolls containing sword technique cultivation techniques on his person. Ordinary cultivation techniques and spells are quite easy to copy and replicate. But high-grade cultivation techniques and spells are not so easily copied. Not only must one have an expert grasp of the cultivation techniques, one must also expend the writer's own vital energies to inscribe them onto a technique jade slip. And normally, who would carry a copy of the cultivation techniques they're practicing on their person? Xianxia, why are you so good to me? Lu Miaoge looked up at the Lu Xianxia before her, her beautiful eyes full of tenderness as she softly spoke. You're my wife. If I'm not good to you, to whom should I be? Lu Xianxia looked at his wife and laughed with a smile. Thank you, Xianxia. Lu Miage's eyes glistened, and she smiled tenderly. We are husband and wife. One entity, there's no need for thanks. Lu Xianxia waved his hand and said, Lu Miaoge gently hummed an affirmation and then quietly snuggled into her husband's arms. Time passed by slowly. At this moment, Lu Yuanzhong, the Bai family ancestor, the patriarch of Zheng family, and patriarch Yu Jinyang of the Yu family had all hurriedly arrived at Red Leaf Valley Market. The commotion earlier caused Yu Yuanshan to send the highest level of emergency message. Faced with such a message, the ancestors of the four major families did not dare delay. They ordered their families to activate their defensive formations and quickly came over. Yuanshan, what's the situation here? Patriarch Yu Jinyang asked aloud. This patriarch of the Yu family had a full head of white hair, but not a single wrinkle or age spot on his face. His skin is clear and glossy as a baby's, perfectly exemplifying the phrase old in years, youthful in looks. As Patriarch Yu Jinyang spoke, Lu Yuanzhong, the Bai family ancestor, and the patriarch of the Zheng family all turned to Yu Yuanshan, wanting to know the specifics of what had happened in the market. Although they arrived one after another, Yu Yuanshan indicated that the situation in the market had stabilized, so he waited for everyone to gather before explaining. Patriarch, fellow Taoists. Upon hearing Patriarch Yu Jinyang's words, Yu Yuanshan immediately recounted what had happened in the market earlier. What? Two Foundation establishment robber cultivators. An extraordinary sword cultivator who slew a second-ranked demon beast with a single sword strike. And this sword cultivator killed both robber cultivators. Upon hearing this, the four of them exchanged astonished glances, their faces revealing shock and disbelief. After all, these were Foundation establishment great cultivators, beings on the same level as them. And now, Yu Yuanshan was telling them that tonight, two Foundation establishment robber cultivators had raided the market. Then, suddenly, an extraordinary sword cultivator appeared and slew both robber cultivators. If not for the current state of the market's great formation being weakened, allowing them to see that the market had gone through a disturbance, and knowing that Yu Yuanshan wouldn't lie to them, they would have thought they were listening to a radio drama. How could our market have such a sword cultivator? Indeed, all the Foundation establishment cultivators were invited to the auction left after it ended. The patriarch of the Zheng family and by family ancestor spoke up. This is what I recorded on the shadow retention stone. Without saying much more, Yu Yuanshan took out a fist-sized black stone. The shadow retention stone is a magic artifact refined by artifact refiners. It can record a period of images and sounds. Depending on the grade, the clarity of the images and duration vary. Its uses are wide-ranging. Many cultivators use shadow retention stones to leave their last words before they pass away. Or when selling cultivation techniques or instructing juniors, they might record their insights onto a shadow retention stone, which is often much more vivid than text alone. It can also be used for recording various scenes in daily life. The Jade Scroll of the Returning Origin technique that Lu Changsheng cultivated initially also had a shadow retention effect. As mana was infused into the shadow retention stone, a segment of images began to emerge. It was the scene where Lu Changsheng slew the second-ranked demon beast and confronted the pair of robber cultivators. Such a domineering sword stance. That's a true sword cultivator. Could this person be a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect? That's not an impossibility. But for what reason would a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect come to our Red Leaf Valley market? The ancestors of the four major families, upon watching the images on the shadow retention stone, were struck with unparalleled shock in their hearts. Although the shadow retention stone could not record the aura or presence, they could still sense an unstoppable, sword-breaking all laws, unmatched aura from Lu Changsheng through the images. Patriarch Yu Jinyang, upon observing the attire and methods of the two robber cultivators on the shadow retention stone, frowned slightly, falling into contemplation. But upon seeing the two robber cultivators being killed and their bodies taken away, a hint of disappointment flashed in his eyes. Patriarch, what's the matter? Yu Yuanshan, seeing his patriarch's expression, inquired. The strength, attire, and appearance of these two robber cultivators remind me of the male and female villains who are being pursued by the major immortal sects. Patriarch Yu Jinyang narrowed his eyes slightly as he spoke. Male and female villains. The two of them each possesses the strength of the middle and early stages of Foundation establishment. The couple often act together, robbing wealth and assaulting individuals with cunning and unpredictability. They've been wanted by the Heavenly Sword sect for killing an elite disciple. Come to think of it, these two do bear some resemblance to the male and female villains. Once Patriarch Yu Jinyang said this, even the Bai family ancestor began to express his doubt as he looked at the images on the Shadow Retention Stone. Male and female villains, wanted by the Heavenly Sword sect. If that's the case, then this sword cultivator must be a disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect, tracking them to this place. Indeed, otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence of having an extraordinary sword cultivator in our Red Leaf Valley market? Aside from the Heavenly Sword sect, where else could you find such a dominant sword cultivator? Upon hearing this, the others felt relieved, believing that things must be as they surmised. Chapter 382. The Shock of the Four Patriarchs. Underscore for otherwise, how could there have been such a coincidence? Although stories of eminent figures hiding in a market were common, after all, they were just stories and rare ones. Xianxia, you just said that you presented a gift to that sword cultivator. How much was it worth in spirit stones? At this moment, Patriarch Yu Jinyang turned to Ancestor Yu and spoke. Upon hearing these words, Lu Yuanzhong, Bai family ancestor, and Zheng family ancestor all felt a pang in their hearts. Ancestor, a total of 30,000 spirit stones. Given the situation at the time, how could I dare to give less? Thus, I brought out all the spirit stones I could, along with all the stock from the store. Yu Yuanshan said with a bitter smile. He then looked at the three family ancestors. Regarding the gift, I can provide a detailed list and swear on my heart demon that there has been absolutely no deceit. 30,000 spirit stones was not a small amount. He merely intended for it to be split equally among the four families. He wouldn't risk making enemies of the three families for the sake of extorting spirit stones. Fellow Taoists, as our four families jointly manage the marketplace, this matter of the spirit stones surely shouldn't fall on my Yu family alone, should it? Patriarch Yu Jinyang looked at the three family ancestors and made himself heard. His tone carried an almost undeniable assertiveness. That's only right. We can share the cost of these spirit stones across our four families. Upon hearing this, Zheng family ancestor immediately voiced his agreement. However, his face betrayed a look of pain. Although splitting 30,000 spirit stones would mean only 7,500 per family. Even 7,500 spirit stones wasn't a small sum. While family income was higher than that of ordinary loose cultivators, so too were expenses greater. Patriarch Yu Jinyang, the robber cultivator's raid on the marketplace is likely greatly related to loose cultivator Zhao Feng's pursuit of foundation establishment. Initially, it was your Yu family who overruled all objections, allowing this Zhao Feng to attempt foundation establishment within the marketplace. Had that not been the case, perhaps there would have been no incident tonight. Lu Yuanzhong spoke up. He believed that Yu Yuanshan wouldn't resort to extorting spirit stones in this matter. But tonight, not only was the marketplace impacted, their family stores and businesses also suffered losses. And now, to take out such a large sum of spirit stones, naturally, he was reluctant. Indeed, it was your Yu family's decision to allow Zhao Feng to undertake his foundation establishment within the marketplace, which led to the troubles we face tonight. Tonight, our families have already suffered great losses. Later, we will also need to soothe and compensate the merchants who set up shop here. I believe it is not proper to share this expense of the spirit stones now. I think that the Yu family should bear the brunt of the cost of these spirit stones, as well as the compensation for the merchants. My family ancestor also spoke. The raid on the marketplace tonight might not necessarily have been due to the foundation establishment attempt. So many robber cultivators, they obviously came prepared, Yu Yuanshan said, expressing his opinion. Immediately, a debate began between the two sides. Confronted with this situation, Zheng family ancestor chose to remain silent. If possible, he naturally also didn't want to share the cost of these spirit stones. Only, his Zheng family was not in a good situation and was thinking of appeasing the Yu family. The matter of Zhao Feng was indeed proposed by me, but also agreed upon by all of you. Therefore, it's impossible for my Yu family to bear the full cost of the spirit stones and compensation. Let's do this. My Yu family will cover 50% of these 30,000 spirit stones, and the remaining 50% will be shared among your 3 families. As for the losses in the marketplace and the merchant settlements, we will discuss that when we have a detailed list. How about that? At this point, Patriarch Yu Jinyang spoke in a deep tone. I have no objections. Zheng family ancestor immediately said, if the 3 families were to share 50%, it would mean 5,000 spirit stones per family. That was over 2,000 less per family, a significant saving. Agreed. Lu Yu and Zheng, and by family ancestor exchanged glances, nodded their heads, and decided to take the offer while it was good. After all, with the current situation, it was already not bad for the Yu family to be willing to make a concession. After the negotiation concluded, Lu Yu and Zheng, by family ancestor, and Zheng family ancestor left to check on their respective family stores and personnel. Meanwhile, Yu Yuanshan was somewhat unwilling to accept the outcome as he looked at his own ancestor. Ancestor, why should we make such concessions? Even if we didn't, what could Lu Yuanzhong by Tongyan possibly say? Yu Yuanshan spoke out. In his view, as long as their family didn't give in or make concessions, the Lu family, and by family, would have to accept the expenses of the spirit stones. After all, this concession meant an extra expenditure of 7,500 spirit stones. The Yu family had already emptied their coffers last year to purchase the Foundation Establishment Elixir and had been living frugally ever since. This significant expenditure was like adding frost to snow for an already not wealthy family. At present, there is no need for our 4 families to create an unnecessary rift over these spirit stones. Old Ghost Zheng may be active in his stance, but he is also reluctant to part with these spirit stones. Hence, it is not an issue to step back. Now that Ning Hu has successfully established his foundation, our Yu family has 3 foundation establishment cultivators. If we slowly accumulate our strength, they will have to spit back everything they have swallowed sooner or later. Patriarch Yu Jinyang waved his hand and said firmly. Chapter 383 Three-Colored Spiritual Earth by Ling's Talent. An unexpected lottery. _1 before one's eyes. 7 days had passed. During this time, the marketplace remained in a state of lockdown and alert, inspecting for robber cultivators. Lu Changsheng learned from a Lu family that the outward losses of the marketplace were not severe and were within an acceptable range. The main issue was the series of adverse effects brought about by the incident. To minimize the impact and recover popularity and reputation, the 4 major families made certain compensation for the losses suffered by the businesses settled in the market, and they issued a series of preferential and welfare policies. Taking all these aspects into account, it amounted to a huge loss. Even so, the flow of visitors to the Red Leaf Valley Market would still see a significant decline. The fame and reputation built up by the previous auction would be rendered futile by this incident. TSK, it's indeed not easy to run a marketplace. A slight incident can lead to a loss. Lu Changxing couldn't help but lament after learning of these developments. He was well aware that over the years, the 4 major families hadn't made much money from the Red Leaf Valley Market. The primary income had been from the initial sales of land. But with this incident, not only had many spirit stones been spent, but the marketplace, which had just gotten on the right track, had taken a severe fall. It would take several years, perhaps even over a decade of management, to regain popularity and get back on track. It seems that the Red Leaf Valley Market won't change much in the short term. Speaking of which, if I were to reveal my strength and talk with the 4 major families, I might be able to take over the Red Leaf Valley Market directly as my family's spirit land. A sudden thought crossed Lu Changsheng's mind. Through the previous battle, he had clearly realized that his current strength had already far surpassed that of the patriarchs of the 4 major families. It would be incredibly easy to take a spirit land by force with his might. However, He would not engage in such reputation-damaging actions of forcefully seizing other spirit lands without good reason. But the Red Leaf Valley market, the Liu family held a 40% control. If he were to reveal his strength and cooperate with the Liu family, it would be entirely possible to take ownership of Red Leaf Valley using both carrot and stick approaches. Initially, the Liu family and the Bai family did not have the intention to establish the Red Leaf Valley into a marketplace. It was only after the Yu family and the Zheng family joined that the decision was made to maximize benefits by establishing the Red Leaf Valley into a marketplace. Thus, from the Liu family's perspective, as long as enough benefits are provided as compensation, it wouldn't be much of a problem, Liu Changxing pondered in his heart. But there's no rush for that. Once I've accumulated a bit more foundation and my children have grown up, if we still don't have a spirit land, then it might be a viable option. Liu Changxing shook his head lightly. Red Leaf Valley possesses a second-rank middle-grade spirit vein and several first-grade spirit veins. Its geographical location is good as well, right beside Qingzhou Mountain. In Liu Changxing's view, it's an excellent place for a spirit land. However, he could not reveal his true strength just yet. At most, in a few years, he could disclose to the outside that he had acquired a fortuitous opportunity and had made a breakthrough in Foundation establishment. Exhibiting combat power comparable to the Foundation establishment late stage in just 15 short years would indeed be astonishing. It would most likely draw unwanted attention. Once targeted, it could be very troublesome. After all, he was not a cultivator who walked the Great Tao alone. He belonged to those with families and vulnerabilities, a cultivator with soft spots. If it was possible to be more cautious, he would opt for that route. Moreover, Liu Changxing felt that he was still far from having the accumulation and foundation necessary to establish a family. To set up a family, it required not only a top-notch combatant and a family spirit land, but also a top-tier great formation, a complete set of family facilities, an operational system, as well as a sufficient core strength and a continuous influx of new blood, among other things. Although he had 125 children, 30 of whom were spiritual root descendants, the oldest child was only 14 and the youngest was still an infant. Under such circumstances, there wasn't enough financial or human resources to support a family. Even with the help of his wives and concubines, the assistance they could provide was limited. The children still need to grow up. Without a solid base, even if outsiders are recruited, it would be very troublesome. But by the time the children are almost grown, my strength and foundation will have also improved, and by then, it should be about right. Liu Changxing exhaled slowly. He didn't mind enlisting members from outside the main lineage. After all, it was impossible to rely solely on one's own bloodline. Not every child would succeed in managing the family. That is the limitation of a family. But the core matters had to be held in the hands of his own bloodline. In this world, the cohesion of a family bloodline could not be matched by its power. Sigh, it's time to sort out the gains from this trip. Seeing that the alertness of the marketplace had relaxed and things were wrapping up, Liu Changxing got up and headed towards the cave dwelling area. He was preparing to go to Xianxia's cave dwelling to tally up his gains and to deal with the body of the second-ranked demon beast. After all, the storage bag did not have a fresh-keeping function. If not stored in a special container, it could cause problems over time. Changxing. When Xianxia received Liu Changxing's message, she immediately opened the restrictions of her cave dwelling. Because there had been patrols in the marketplace these past few days, she had been disguised. However, the main inspections in the marketplace were focused on the loose cultivators' residential area and the commercial district. The cave dwelling area was only briefly questioned, as those who resided there were either people from the 4 major families or from other cultivation families. Shiyu, Liu Changxing entered the cave dwelling. After the two of them entered the cave dwelling, they also reverted to their true appearances. It always felt somewhat strange to look at each other in disguised forms. Lu Lang, your heroic and dashing figure that night truly amazed Shiyu and is unforgettable. Chapter 384, Three-Colored Spiritual Earth by Ling's Talent. An unexpected lottery. Xiaoxia's countenance was radiant and entrancing, her beautiful eyes brimming with laughter as if she were a playful young girl. Seeing the usually aloof and saintly fairy exhibiting such a girlish demeanor, Lu Chongqing knew that Xiaoxia was partly teasing on purpose, but it still satisfied a part of his masculinity. After all, which man doesn't like his wives, concubines, and children to show dependence and adoration towards him? Ha! She wishes to see her husband's grace. How could I disappoint you? Shiyu, I must naturally put on a good performance. Lu Chongqing chuckled softly and leaned in to capture the ripe and charming lips of the fairy. A moment later, the fairy was nearly as limp as water, collapsing into Lu Chongqing's arms. Her stunningly beautiful face was flushed on both sides, like a fairy descending to the mortal world, breathtakingly vivid and irresistible. Shiyu, were you satisfied with your husband's performance that night? Today, you must satisfy your husband. Gazing at the entrancing beauty of the fairy before him, Lu Chongqing whispered into her ear. Xiaoxia naturally understood what Lu Chongqing meant. She rolled her eyes at him, gently lowered her stance, causing her 3,000 strands of hair to fall over her forehead, like dark clouds over the moon, concealing the extraordinary beauty of the fairy's face. SSSS. Lu Chongqing gently lifted a lock of Xiaoxia's hair, curled it around his finger, and playfully toyed with it. Looking at her peerless beauty, he couldn't help but recall the situation when he first met Xiaoxia. Unknowingly, the relationship between the two had reached such a stage. Afterwards, Lu Chongqing took out an elixir medicine to swallow, held 2 spirit stones in his hand, and sat down to cultivate. The next moment, a drop of liquid mana formed within his Danshan's sea of qi and slowly merged into the 7-colored Dan Lake. Among all his wives and women, only Xiaoxia had the best effect when dual cultivating with him. Currently, only Xiaoxia could make him cultivate in dual without any reservations. One session of tender embrace technique cultivation was nearly equivalent to a month of his cultivation. And after such a long accumulation, he had condensed another drop of liquid mana. Sigh, with 15 drops of liquid mana. Even at this rate, it will still take 2 to 3 years to break through to the 2nd level of foundation establishment. Lu Chongqing couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Although this rate was already very fast, in his eyes, it was still quite ordinary. Without dwelling on it too much, after Xiaoxia woke up, he told her, and then took out the corpses of 2 robber cultivators and the storage bags he had harvested, and began to clean them up. In addition to the storage magic artifacts of the 2 robber cultivators and the several storage bags, there are the 3 storage bags given by the patriarch of the Yu family, and from killing robber cultivators, he had harvested more than 10 storage bags. Just these storage bags alone amounted to a significant sum of spirit stones. Indeed, robber cultivators are treasures all over. Lu Chongqing pulled several magic artifacts off the 2 people. Like foundation establishment cultivators, they usually wear magical robes, magic boots, and have a few protective magic artifacts on them. Looking at the burly man's fierce and resentful face, Lu Chongqing touched his face a little bit with his hand. Then, mana surged in his palm, and he tore forcefully. Rip! A mask as thin as a cicada's wings appeared. This mask is quite nice. It should be a spiritual artifact or some sort of disguise item that leaves no trace of transformation even when its owner has died. Lu Chongqing commented with a click of his tongue while observing the mask in his hand. Being a robber cultivator and having a disguise was quite normal. But had he not inspected them routinely, he wouldn't have noticed any traces of disguise. Chongqing, I think I've seen this man on the sex wanted list. He seems to be a wanted fugitive, said Xiaoxia, frowning slightly as she looked at the burly man's true face and spoke. A wanted fugitive? Lu Chongqing raised his eyebrows upon hearing this. In the cultivation world where the law of the jungle prevails, there are no rules. However, the major immortal sects still maintain order. If someone causes trouble and offends the major immortal sects, They would be labeled as heretic cultivators and be wanted by the immortal sects. If I remember correctly, this couple should be the malevolent duo, heretic cultivators wanted by the Heavenly Sword Sect because they killed disciples of the Heavenly Sword Sect, Xianxia said. The wanted lists from a major immortal sects are all shared with each other. When Xianxia left the Qingyun sect, they also asked her to remember these wanted criminals, not to have their disciples chase down the fugitives, but to deal with them if encountered to uphold the majesty of the sect. If they couldn't handle it, it would also inform them of the strong capabilities of their opponents, enabling them to avoid danger by staying far away. Oh, wanted by the Heavenly Sword Sect, is there a bounty? Asked Lu Changsheng, smiling as he inquired. If a person was wanted by an immortal sect, there usually was quite an attractive bounty. Naturally, there's a bounty, but she doesn't remember the specifics, Xianxia said with a gentle shake of her head. She had only glanced at the wanted list at the time, just to get a general idea. Upon seeing the true face of the burly man, based on the couple's strength and their disguises, she recognized them. In that case, they'll just hold on to it for now. If there's an opportunity in the future, they'll go and claim that bounty, Lu Changsheng decided after some thought. He had been planning to feed the corpses to the six-winged golden silkworm. Now that there was mention of a bounty, he naturally wasn't going to waste it. He planned to make a trip whenever he had the spare time. Such robber cultivators wanted by the Heavenly Sword Sect can collect their bounties in any large marketplace under the jurisdiction of the Heavenly Sword Sect, said Xianxia. However, if Lu Lang wants to quickly receive the bounty, he'll have to go to the Heavenly Sword Sect or the Jiuxiao Immortal City, she added. Xianxia spoke up. Chapter 385, Three-Colored Spiritual Earth, by Ling's Talent, An Unexpected Lottery. Right, Shiyu, when claiming a bounty, do they need to verify identity information or anything? Lu Changxing nodded and continued to ask. Usually not. There are many bounty hunters in the cultivation world, and they make their living by capturing heretic cultivators with bounties on their heads. They prefer to keep their identities secret. Therefore, the major immortal sects don't require identity verification as long as you have the head or a token of the deceased. They generally want to investigate your identity. Xianxia shook her head and explained. Got it. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng felt reassured. If identity verification were required, he would have simply given up on the bounty and not bothered with it. Suddenly, Lu Changsheng began to collect the two corpses again. He planned to buy some equipment later to store the two bodies. Otherwise, by the time he went to collect the bounty, the bodies would be rotten. What's this? Lu Changsheng started to clean out the storage bag. From the burly man's storage bag, he took out a few items that looked particularly cherished to inspect, and among them was a jar of tricolor patchy soil. The soil was not only filled with spiritual energy, but also gave off a faint fragrance. This should be tricolor spiritual earth, a pretty good foundation establishment spiritual object. If consumed during foundation establishment by those cultivating earth attribute techniques, it can help with the magical barriers during the 3 stages of foundation establishment. It can also be used as medicinal mud for planting spiritual medicines and spirit plants, producing an accelerating effect on their growth. Standing to the side, Xianxia looked at the jar of tricolored soil and spoke out. Tricolor spiritual earth. Foundation establishment spiritual object? Initially, Lu Changsheng thought that foundation establishment spiritual objects were average. However, when he heard about the medicinal mud and its accelerating effects on growth, his eyes immediately lit up. After obtaining the golden armor being mother, he had looked into methods to accelerate its maturity and growth. After all, the growth of the golden armor being mother was excruciatingly slow. 3 years to sprout, 3 years to grow leaves, 3 years to bloom, 3 years to bear fruit. A full 12-year cycle. However, upon inquiry, he found that medicinal mud and soil capable of accelerating growth are very rare and precious. Unless it's an extremely rare spiritual medicine that's difficult to cultivate, it would be better to plant in spirit-rich spiritual earth and have a specialized spirit plant cultivator tend to it carefully. Unexpectedly, today without any effort. He had come across such spiritual objects. Not bad, good stuff. Lu Changsheng chuckled lightly and stored away the tricolor spiritual earth. He planned to use it later to cultivate the golden armor bean mother. The subsequent cleaning process didn't reveal any more high-value items that excited Lu Changsheng. Even with treasures worth over 1,000 spirit stones, they didn't impress him much. All these are magical artifacts. This must have been plunder from a magical artifact shop. I wonder whose shop they robbed. Lu Changsheng opened another storage bag, seeing it was full of magical artifacts. He took a glance and couldn't help shaking his head. He then opened every storage bag one by one, finding them mostly filled with elixir medicines, magical artifacts, and spiritual medicines, clearly plundered goods. After half an hour, Lu Changsheng had finally cleaned out all the storage bags. 156 middle-grade spirit stones, 12,894 lower-grade spirit stones, 1 portion of tricolor spiritual earth, 1 middle-grade spiritual artifact for lower-grade spiritual artifacts, but 3 of them were severely damaged. 4 top-grade magical artifacts, 9 high-grade magical artifacts, 29 middle-grade magical artifacts, 35 lower-grade magical artifacts, 17 bottles of yellow dragon elixir, 9 bottles of energy refining powder, condensing energy elixirs, treasures of heaven and earth. Doesn't seem too much, probably only worth around 60 or 70,000 spirit stones in total. Lu Changsheng looked over the items with a slight frown. The hall seemed large with a variety of items, but most items weren't worth much and were a hassle to deal with. Excluding the 3 storage bags given by the patriarch of the Yu family, the actual total was only about 30 to 40,000 spirit stones. That's also to be expected, already being a robber cultivator and resorting to rob in the marketplace. There's a limit to how wealthy that could make one. Lu Changsheng gently shook his head, knowing not every cultivator could be wealthy. Especially those who were robber cultivators, they generally wouldn't carry a lot of spirit stones on them. Immediately, he looked at Xianxia and asked, "Shiyu, is there anything you fancy?" "Thank you, Lu Lang." Xianxia smiled lightly and didn't hesitate. She took a blue bead and a flying needle magical instrument. They were the lower-grade defensive spiritual artifact and a top-grade magical artifact of the female robber cultivator. Seeing that Xianxia only took 2 items, Lu Changsheng gave her some talismans as well, to keep for emergencies. After all, for him, talismans were the least valuable. Right, there's also this big fellow. Lu Changsheng asked Xianxia to step back a bit. He took the corpse of the green wolf out of the storage bag. Collect. Watching the massive corpse before him, Lu Changsheng took out a magical artifact gourd and placed it to the side. Then, wielding the true Yang 5-element sword, he skillfully made incisions at several points on the green wolf, formed a spell with his hands, and collected all the blood into the gourd. This second-rank demon beast blood could not only be used to make spirit ink, but also for concocting certain elixir medicines. Of course, Lu Changsheng intended to use this demon beast blood to nourish his 6-winged golden silkworm. After draining the blood, Lu Changsheng proficiently inspected the green wolf's head and abdomen. Confirming there was no demon core, he collected the corpse back into the storage bag. Lu Lang, you also know the art of spirit slaughter? Xianxia watched Lu Changsheng dissect the green wolf, collect the blood, and check for the demon core. Surprise flickered in her beautiful eyes. Just a little, Lu Changsheng chuckled and said. This technique came naturally from the 2nd-rank spirit slaughterer ability he had drawn from the system. In fact, his instant killing of the green wolf was also somewhat related to the 2nd-rank spirit slaughter ability. Chapter 386, 3-Colored Spiritual Earth, by Ling's Talent, An Unexpected Lottery. _4 with a 2nd-rank spirit slaughterer, he could, in the face of a demon beast, discern its weak points and flaws at the first instance, enabling a more effective attack. This feeling was incredibly profound, and even Lu Changsheng himself couldn't explain it clearly. It was as if he had been slaying demon beasts for decades, his heart and blade equally cold, knowing exactly when to strike swiftly. Lu Lang, could you be the reincarnation of some great being? Otherwise, how could you be so formidable, knowing so much? Xiaoxia's beautiful eyes were lively as she blinked and looked at Lu Changsheng, jokingly saying, having been around Lu Changsheng for so long, and him always surprising her, made her feel that he was no ordinary person. Yet, through their long association and interaction and various behaviors, she could also tell that Lu Changsheng wasn't like some old monster reborn. You actually figured it out. I was once a false core master. Lu Changsheng's heart skipped a beat as he said with a smile. He thought to himself that in front of Xiaoxia, he had indeed revealed a bit too much. It seemed he needed to be a little more restrained. Otherwise, such astonishing performances were indeed too shocking and hard to explain. Wow, that's so impressive. Xiaoxia then put on an admiring look, causing Lu Changsheng to be unable to resist pinching her clear, jade-cool cheeks. He thought that if Xiaoxia hadn't cultivated the supreme, forgetful love technique, she would probably always be this way. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month passed. During this time, Lu Changsheng spent his days making talismans, cultivating, refining the 9-treasure jade rui, and continuously teaching Lu Miaoge the Saturn solar sword technique. After half a month of hands-on, detailed instructions, Lu Miaoge finally made a simple entrance into the Saturn solar sword technique. The next step was for her to familiarize herself with the technique and convert her cultivation of the profound water art to the Saturn solar sword technique. Although this process would consume some of her cultivation level and delay her progress, overall, the benefits outweighed the drawbacks. Sister Miaoge, since you've grasped the Saturn solar sword technique, I will now head back home for a while. If you encounter any problems during your cultivation, stop and wait for me to return. Lu Changsheng said to Lu Miaoge. I understand. Changsheng, be careful on your journey. Lu Miaoge said with a gentle and water-like demeanor. Lu Changsheng nodded and then rode the iron feather eagle back to Qingzhou Mountain. Shortly after Lu Changsheng left the marketplace, a black-robed young man about 27 or 28 years old, with an ordinary and upright face, walked out of Red Leaf Valley Market. Red Leaf Valley Market, I shall return. After leaving the Red Leaf Valley region, the black-robed young man exhaled a sigh of relief, looked back toward Red Leaf Valley, clenched his fists tightly, and a shadowy fierceness flickered in his eyes. After returning to Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Changsheng, as usual, first visited Qingzhou Villa to discuss matters of his lectures with Uncle Fu. Although he had lectured many times, there were only 2 or 3 youngsters with some talent for talisman making. Given his current lack of time, Lu Changsheng didn't have the leisure to give them private lessons. He would just give them some extra attention and answer questions in class. He planned to have them apprentice at the Red Leaf Valley Market when they got older and if their parents agreed. By then, if he had time and was willing, he would provide more guidance and teaching. Moreover, if he was unavailable, Lu Miaoge could also take over. After returning home, his wives and children immediately came forward to inquire about the events at the Red Leaf Valley Market. The incident of the robber cultivator pillaging the Red Leaf Valley Market had caused quite a stir, and they all were aware of it. Though they knew Lu Changsheng was unharmed, they were very concerned about him. Soon after, Lu Changsheng also shared with them the general events of that night. His wives and concubines listened, feeling nothing but thrill and danger. A group of children heard about a Foundation establishment robber cultivator causing havoc in the marketplace, and a sword cultivator stepping forward, breaking all spells with a single strike, slaying the robber cultivator, and saving the marketplace from fire and water, all showing excited expressions. After all, children of this age very much enjoyed stories of sword cultivators slaying demons and vanquishing evil. Seeing the children like this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but smile. Afterwards, he also inquired about the current situation of the children. He learned that Lu Xianxia was still at the 2nd level of qi refinement. His son, Lu Qianjin, would start cultivating in another month. As for the little girl Bai Ling, she expressed that she would break through to the second level of qi refinement in a short while. Looking at Bai Ling's timid face, waiting for praise and commendation, Lu Changxing rubbed her little head and couldn't help but marvel at her talent. He remembered Bai Ling had started cultivating less than half a year ago. Specifically, from the time of drawing qi into her body to now, it had only been a bit more than 3 months. 3 months' time, without any elixir medicines, this progress was truly astonishing. This made him involuntarily think how great it would be if Bai Ling were his own biological daughter. In that case, his own talent would probably be at full throttle. After showing some concern and rewarding little Bai Ling, Lu Changsheng went to his backyard and dug a pit, pouring all of the 3-colored earth into it. I wonder how much this tricolor spiritual earth will help the golden armor bean mother. Looking at the golden armor bean mother that had just started to show a bit of sprouting after a year, Lu Changsheng's heart was filled with anticipation. He also mentioned to Lu Miaoyun that he had bought some spiritual earth and medicinal mud. Although Lu Miaoyun could tell that the spiritual earth and medicinal mud were extraordinary, she didn't ask much and stated that she would take care of it every day. Time flew quickly, and before he knew it, Lu Changsheng had been back at Qingzhou Mountain for over a month. During this time, aside from cultivating, making talismans, and refining the 9-treasure jade rui, he was also fathering children. With his efforts, during this month, maids had successfully conceived. And on this day, Lu Changsheng's 121st and 122nd children were born. Just when these children were born, a system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for the first birth of Dragon and Phoenix twins, granting you 1 lottery chance. Dragon and Phoenix twins? There's even an achievement reward for this. Lu Changsheng's eyebrows rose slightly as he smiled. He had known for a while that his concubine Kuei Si was carrying twins. But because he had already received a reward for the first set of twins, he didn't expect much chance of getting a reward the second time, and consequently had no such expectations. Unexpectedly, without any particular hopes, he received a system reward. And both of these children had spiritual roots. 1 7th grade spiritual root, 1 8th grade spiritual root. Perhaps by continuously accumulating lower grade spiritual roots, will my spiritual root also slowly progress to 4th grade? However, for fast promotion of a spiritual root, it's still necessary to rely on higher grade ones. Lu Changsheng sighed inwardly, yearning to have a child with a talent like Bai Ling's. He planned, once Lu Miaoga had reached foundation establishment, to have 2 more children. With both parents at foundation establishment and possessing 5th grade spiritual roots, the children born were likely to have good spiritual roots. After visiting the children, Lu Changsheng also returned to his study, preparing for the lottery. He wanted to see what this unexpected lottery chance would yield. System, draw the lottery. Lu Changsheng silently commanded in his heart. Watching the familiar lottery wheel emerge before his eyes, with a slight stir of his spirit, a ray of golden light whisked around rapidly on the lottery wheel. Chapter 387, Breakthrough. Breakthrough. Condensing the 9-treasure jade rui. _1 ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a bottle of Purple Mansion elixir. The reward has been issued to the system space, and the host can check it at any time. The golden light paused on the elixir medicines category. Immediately, an elixir icon emerged from the big roulette, accompanied by a system notification sound. Purple Mansion elixir, a bottle. Lu Changsheng looked at the reward he had drawn. He had never heard of this elixir name before. However, the fact that he was given a whole bottle suggested that the effects were probably average, not some rare elixir. With a slight movement of his mental spirit, information about the Purple Mansion elixir appeared in the system space. Elixir, Purple Mansion elixir. Quality, 3rd rank. Description, can cleanse the spirit soul, purify the physical body, and strengthen divine sense and physique. 3rd rank elixir, can cleanse the spirit soul, purify the physical body, and strengthen divine sense and physique. This is good stuff. Now among my body, mana, and divine sense, it's my divine sense that's the weakest. If the Purple Mansion Elixir can strengthen my divine sense, it can also make up for this shortcoming, Lu Changxing mused as he looked at the description of the elixir's effects. A smile spread across Lu Changxing's face upon reading about the effects of the Purple Mansion Elixir. In the marketplace, second-rank elixirs were already hard to come by, and elixirs nourishing the soul and strengthening the divine sense were even rarer. Unless one attended some major auction, it would be very difficult to purchase such elixirs from marketplace shops. As for a third-rank elixir like the Purple Mansion Elixir, it was even more rare, something ordinary people could not even dream of laying their eyes upon. Extract. Lu Changsheng immediately extracted the bottle of Purple Mansion Elixir. Suddenly, a white jade bottle appeared in his hand. The detailed introduction about this bottle of Purple Mansion Elixir also emerged in his mind. It was more or less the same as the provided description. Nourishes the spirit's soul and the physical body, thereby strengthening the divine sense and physique. And within this bottle, there were a total of 10 Purple Mansion elixirs. Speaking of which, if I feed the elixirs that I win from the lottery to my child, and he breaks through, then the feedback bonus will be given to me. Wouldn't I receive double the gain? Lu Changsheng suddenly thought, looking at the Purple Mansion elixir in his hand. It's a pity that in order to consume the Purple Mansion elixir, not only a certain physical foundation is required, but also the birth of a divine sense. Basically, only foundation establishment cultivators can consume it. If an energy refining cultivator consumes it, it will only backfire, damaging the body and unsettling the mental spirit. Lu Changxing shook his head and said, if his child were able to consume it now, he naturally would be willing to give it to the child to eat. But alas, his child was still too young and couldn't consume it. Lu Changsheng walked out of the study and entered the practice room. He was ready to see the effects of the Purple Mansion elixir. As expected of a third-rank elixir, it looks extraordinary, Lu Changsheng said as he poured out a Purple Mansion elixir into his palm, admiring it. The elixir was the size of a longan fruit, radiating a flowing light, with colorful purple mist swirling around it, emanating a rich medicinal fragrance that invigorated the spirit when inhaled. After swallowing the elixir, Lu Changsheng immediately felt as if his entire body was ignited, his blood boiling, spirit soul scorching hot, almost transforming into a ball of firelight. 100 Refinements, Treasure Body Art, Purple Mansion Nourishing Spirit Technique. Lu Changsheng immediately closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, circulating the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art and the Purple Mansion Nourishing Spirit Technique to refine this powerful medicinal strength. Boom, boom, boom. His entire body was crystalline, shining with the luster of precious light, his blood roiling, surging, and pounding within his body. Meanwhile, his mind's spirit soul was like a ball of firelight, being scorched continuously, making him feel dizzy and his brain in chaos. Not knowing how long had passed, Lu Changsheng felt that the medicinal strength within his body had almost been refined. Phew! He opened his eyes and exhaled lightly. He felt clear-headed and bright-eyed, full of vitality and strength throughout his body. The Purple Mansion elixir is indeed worthy of being a third-rank elixir, with quite fierce medicinal power. If it weren't for my cultivation of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art and the Purple Mansion Nourishing Spirit Technique, it wouldn't have been easy to assimilate the power of this elixir, Lu Changsheng muttered to himself, then proceeded to check his divine sense. He discovered that his divine sense had grown from the original 18 zhong, approximately 54 meters, to almost 33 zhong, approximately 99 meters, almost a doubling in size. Based on what he knew, the divine sense of an average foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator was around 50 zhong, approximately 150 meters. Yet now, with just one elixir, he had already gained around 15 zhong, approximately 45 meters. This improvement is simply astounding. If I were to consume and refine all 10 Purple Mansion elixirs, my divine sense could probably be comparable to that of the Foundation establishment late stage, Lu Changsheng said excitedly. He felt that this bottle of Purple Mansion elixir was better than the previous third stage life-extending pill and coagulation crystal elixir he had drawn. After all, things that bring immediate improvement were the best. As for the lifespan extension pill, he was currently not lacking in lifespan, and the coagulation crystal elixir was still gathering dust in the system space, with no telling when it would come into use. Not just divine sense, my physical body has also improved. But the main effect of the Purple Mansion elixir is in strengthening divine sense. And since I practice the 100 Refinements treasure body art, my physical body is comparable to a high-grade magic artifact, so the effect is not very obvious. After refining all 10 Purple Mansion elixirs, I estimate that my 100 Refinement treasure body art could also directly break through to the 4th level. Lu Changsheng continued to assess his current physical situation. He could clearly perceive that his physical body had also received a significant enhancement, only because the Purple Mansion elixir's effects on divine sense were more prominent. While refining this elixir just now, my brain was in chaos, and I have no idea how much time has passed. No wonder they say some elixirs require protection during consumption. Something like the Purple Mansion elixir. If one were disturbed during the process, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Changsheng remarked and did not continue to consume any more elixirs but walked out of the practice room. Looking at the scenery outside, he realized his eyesight had significantly improved compared to before. The veins on the distant Qingzhou leaves, the ants on the ground, the insects were all captured clearly by him. Chapter 388, Breakthrough. Breakthrough. Condensing the 9 treasure, jade, Rui. Even ordinary walls were almost transparent to his vision. Enhancing divine sense really does have many advantages, not only for cultivation, but also for battles and many other aspects. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. He knew there were many more wonders to divine sense. For example, with a stronger divine sense than others, one could easily see through their disguises and gauge their cultivation levels. After chatting with his wives and concubines, he realized he had only been in seclusion for 3 days. It hadn't been long at all. After having a meal with his wives, concubines, and children, Lu Changsheng announced his intention and began another period of secluded cultivation. He was prepared to consume all 9 remaining Purple Mansion elixirs in one go. 1 month later, inside the practice room, boom, Lu Changsheng was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, his body emanating a hazy treasured light that bestowed upon him an aura of majesty and sanctity. At this moment, his physical body was undergoing a transformation, breaking through to the 4th level of the 100 Refinements treasure body art. The surging blood qi within his body was constantly flowing, cleansing every inch of his flesh and skin. The commotion grew louder and louder, like a volcanic eruption or the roaring of rivers, and it resembled the sonorous clang of metal on metal. Boom! After who knows how long, a sharp clang resounded within Lu Changsheng's body. He seemed to break free from shackles as a light unfurled and shone through mountains and rivers. A brilliant, dazzling radiance emanated from within him. Huff! 100 Refinements treasure body art, 4th level. The eyes of the seated Lu Changsheng suddenly snapped open, glowing with a golden treasured light. He stood up, stretching his muscles and bones, producing a crackling sound throughout his body. He quietly felt the changes in his body after the breakthrough. He just felt an inexhaustible strength filling his entire body. With the 4th level of the 100 Refinements treasure body art, my physical body is comparable to top-grade magic artifacts. Now facing ordinary energy refining cultivators, I can boldly try to catch magic artifacts with my bare hands. Lu Changsheng looked at his palms, which were like jade. They were still as white and delicate as ever, yet they exuded an unbreakable quality. Clang, clang, clang. He clenched his fists and collided them lightly, immediately producing a sound like the clash of metal. When he collided them with a bit more force, bang, a loud sonic boom echoed in the practice room. But sometimes having too good of a physique isn't a good thing either. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. His wives, concubines, and maids were all mortals and energy-refining cultivators. In comparison to him now, they seemed somewhat fragile, necessitating control of the impact force. My divine sense has finally reached 150 zhang. For ordinary cultivators, just after breaking through to the foundation establishment stage, divine sense is about 10 zhang, in the middle stage around 50 zhang, and in the late stage 150 zhang. Tisk, 10 Purple Mansion elixirs not only allowed my 100 refinements treasure body art to break through to the 4th level, but also advance my divine sense to 150 zhang, comparable to the late foundation establishment stage. Indeed, popping pills is the true path. Reliance on sheer personal effort in cultivation, unless one has a heavenly spiritual root or an earth spirit root, would mean this would be as far as one gets in a lifetime. Lu Changsheng sighed. According to the progress in his 100 refinements treasure body art, it would have taken about 3 more years to reach the 4th level. This 3-year estimate was already accounting for the assistance of a middle-grade magic artifact and its prototype. If he were to cultivate at a normal pace, it would take 20 to 30 years. However, 10 Purple Mansion elixirs saved him from such arduous cultivation. As for the divine sense, the effects were even more extraordinary and stunning. If he were to cultivate step by step on his own, it would likely take 60 to 70 years to reach this level of divine sense. Now that I have divine sense at the late stage of foundation establishment, I can also start studying this divine consciousness secret technique. At this point, Lu Changsheng took out a technique jade slip from his storage bag. It was the Red Phoenix true scripture that he had obtained from the young man in the red robe. Initially, he had only glanced at this technique. It was a technique that veered towards the heretical path. The only thing that impressed him was the divine consciousness secret technique named Soul Dispersion Needle in the Red Phoenix true scripture. It allowed one to condense divine sense into a soul dispersion needle to launch a divine sense attack against enemies. Back then, both he and Xianxia suffered from the soul dispersion needle used by the young man in the red robe. Had it not been for his peach blossom goo guarding his sea of consciousness, the situation would have been dangerous. Now that he possessed divine sense comparable to someone in the late foundation establishment stage, he naturally planned to cultivate this secret technique. In future battles, it would serve as an unexpected and preemptive strike. Reading the cultivation method for soul dispersion needle, its condensation method, and its application, Lu Changsheng spent an hour to understand the principles and steps, and then began to try cultivating it. He sat cross-legged with closed eyes, introspecting his sea of consciousness. He formed a mysterious symbol with his divine sense in the sea of consciousness with a subtle rhythm. Then, through this symbol, he slowly condensed a red needle. Sometime later, damn, is it really this hard to condense a single soul dispersion needle? Lu Changsheng opened his eyes, somewhat at a loss for words. He had made several attempts, using the power of his divine sense to condense the soul dispersion needle. But each time it failed to take shape before he could even really get started. It was entirely a case of I understand the principle and every step, but I just can't do it. This secret technique is many times more difficult than the flame bullet technique, the spiritual eye technique, or the aura concealment technique I learned before. It's going to be very hard to get the hang of it by figuring it out on my own. Lu Changsheng shook his head, knowing full well the difficulty of cultivating a secret technique. This soul dispersion needle required divine sense to follow a mysterious rhythm and form into ancient, intricate runes before slowly condensing into the soul dispersion needle. Every step had to be flawless, and he would have to slowly become proficient with it. Not like the techniques he obtained from the system, which he could master perfectly right away. Forget it, they'll study it later. Chapter 389, Breakthrough. Breakthrough. Condensing the 9-treasure jade Rui. Lu Changsheng shook his head. He was not an ascetic cultivator. He had already been in seclusion for so long. He was not willing to spend several more months focusing solely on the study of secret techniques. He pushed the door and walked out of the practice room. The manyfold increase in his divine sense had changed the way he viewed the world. The entire world seemed more vibrant and lively. The vitality of all things rose and fell, each with its distinct charm. Looking up, he saw the great formation that enshrouded Qingzhou Mountain, where mana flowed, transformed, and varied, all following a certain pattern. Now that I have a divine sense comparable to that of late Foundation establishment, if I were to study formation, becoming a first-grade array master shouldn't be difficult. Lu Changxing thought to himself. Many skills, as one's cultivation level and strength increased, became less challenging to grasp. This was especially evident with formations. Array master was a profession with a very high threshold. It was even more dependent on innate talent than talisman making. But with a breakthrough to Foundation establishment and the possession of divine sense, learning formations would become much easier. Because divine sense was advantageous for studying pattern details, observing the evolution of great formations, and precisely arranging formations, among other things. However, even with these advantages, advancing to second rank would still take an unknown amount of time and effort. Lu Changsheng shook his head. He had no intention of trying to delve into these matters himself. With the time and effort that would take, he might as well have a few more children in the hope of drawing a second-rank formation. Half a month later, Lu Changsheng was chatting with Chu Jinjin in the courtyard, keeping the children company. At that moment, Lu Changsheng felt a stream of qi enter his body out of nowhere. He knew it was his son Lu Qianjin who had completed drawing qi into his body. Indeed, it's not an achievement award for just one child, Lu Changxing murmured to himself. He felt neither disappointed nor perturbed. He was very calm. After all, he had suspected that probably only after 5 or 10 children had completed drawing qi into their bodies would any reward be triggered. Dad, Mom, I've completed drawing qi into my body. Soon after, his son Lu Qianjin came running over excitedly to share the good news. Yeah, indeed, after cultivating, one looks much more handsome and pleasing to the eye. Chu Jinjin, hearing of her son's successful cultivation, promptly looked at him with joy, pinched his little face, and made Lu Qianjin show a helpless expression. He felt that his mother, despite her age, still acted like a child and was even more childish than himself. Upon hearing these words, Lu Changsheng's mouth twitched slightly. He didn't see how his son had become more handsome. His son grew up in Qingzhou Valley, consuming spirit rice and spiritual meals daily, and began taking elixir medicines to fortify his foundation and nurture his primary qi since the age of 6, virtually stepping 1 foot into cultivation. So there was no significant change when drawing qi into his body. Congratulations, brother. Congratulations on stepping onto the path of cultivation, brother. The few children beside him revealed looks of envy and voiced their congratulations. Well done. This is your reward from Dad. When you reach the 3rd level energy refinement, you'll be able to control a flying sword. Lu Changsheng took a flying sword from his storage bag and handed it to his son. He had gathered a pile of magic artifacts from slaying a robber cultivator in Red Leaf Valley. These artifacts, which he found inconvenient to handle in the Red Leaf Valley market, he had kept with him. Thinking it over, he was too lazy to deal with them anymore. He decided to use them as rewards for his children. After all, these artifacts had no markings and were not forged by any artifact refining master, so they wouldn't be recognized as stolen goods. Thank you, Dad. Lu Quanzhen's eyes lit up at the sight of the flying sword, and his face was full of joy. As a cultivator, who didn't dream of possessing their own flying sword. Previously, when Lu Changsheng rewarded a flying sword to Lu Xianxia, it made all his siblings envious. Qianjin, You must work hard in the future. Chu Jinjin watched the scene happily, patted her son's head encouragingly. Mom, rest assured. Lu Chuanjin nodded firmly. After seeing that his son Lu Chuanjin had completed drawing qi into his body, Lu Chongxing stayed a few more days before returning to Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Miaoga had already begun switching her cultivation of the profound water art to this Saturn solar sword technique. But changing cultivation techniques was no small endeavor. Originally, when Lu Chongsheng was at 7th level energy refinement and cultivating the non-attribute returning origin technique, it took him 4 months to switch techniques. Although Lu Miaoga's 2 cultivation techniques were both water attribute, switching between them was actually less efficient than for a non-attribute technique like the returning origin technique. With her 9th level energy refinement cultivation, it was estimated she would need about half a year to complete the switch. Half a year later, inside the practice room on Qingzhou Mountain. Phew, I've finally completed the refinement of this 9-treasure jade rui. Lu Chongsheng looked at the exquisite and smooth 9-treasure jade rui before him, which seemed divinely crafted, and joy appeared on his face. Normally, he would have finished refining the 9-treasure jade rui much earlier, but due to various trivial matters and the dual cultivation with Xianxia and so forth, it was only now he had completed the refinement of this heavenly spiritual treasure. This 9-treasure jade rui is a heavenly spiritual treasure, and I plan to integrate and refine it into my life-bound treasured bone. Therefore, to be safe, it's better to solidify this 9-treasure jade rui into my chest bone. Lu Chongsheng had long made plans for the 9-treasure jade rui. He intended to consolidate it into his chest bone first. Wait until he broke through the 5th layer of the 100 refinements treasure body technique. Then thoroughly integrate the 9-treasure jade rui with the Baogu method into his life-bound treasure bone. Once the life-bound treasure bone was formed, henceforth, the chest bone would be the 9-treasure jade rui, and the 9-treasure jade rui would be his chest bone. In that way, he would be able to attain the 9 great divine abilities of the 9-treasure jade rui permanently. Cha! Lu Chongsheng unbuttoned his magical robe to reveal his muscular, sculpted chest, and with a light shout, the 100 refinements treasure body art circulated, preparing to extract the black dragon magical bead currently in his chest bone. Chapter 390, Breakthrough. Condensing the 9-treasure jade rui. Underscore for as the cultivation technique circulated, a treasure light flowed around his chest, and the imprint of the black dragon magical bead gradually surfaced, becoming clearly visible. The treasure light flowed, dazzling and splendid. Flesh crawled as the black dragon magical bead slowly emerged from his chest. This process was exceedingly slow and also extremely painful. After a long time, Lu Chongsheng finally extracted the black dragon magical bead from his breastbone. Huff, puff, puff. Lu Chongsheng rubbed his breastbone, gasping for breath and feeling somewhat fatigued. At this moment, the black dragon magical bead's dark light was dimmed. Inside, the miniature flood dragon was even more listless on its last breath. Naturally, Lu Chongxing knew that this black dragon magical bead, which had accompanied him for 10 years, had its origin source depleted by half. The once middle-grade magical treasure now couldn't even be counted as a lower-grade one. It was only a half-ruined magical treasure. If he continued to use it for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, he estimated that in another decade, once the 100 refinements treasure body art was cultivated to the 5th layer, this black dragon magical bead would be completely spent. Merely 10 years have let me cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body art from the 1st layer to now. It was worth it. Lu Chongsheng looked at the black dragon magical bead in his hand and let out a light breath. He didn't feel any heartache. In his view, this black dragon magical bead had allowed him to cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body art to this level in just 10 years, which was quite acceptable. After all, since the magical treasure was integrated into his body, he hadn't spent any time cultivating this technique. It had been entirely automatic. During this period, it had also been used to nurture his treasure bones. Under such circumstances, he could accept a higher cost. He took an elixir medicine and began to circulate his cultivation to recover his state. Just now, extracting the black dragon magical bead had also taken a significant toll on him. What followed, the integration of the 9 treasure jade rui, was also a major undertaking. He had to maintain his peak condition. One day later, Lu Changsheng, fully restored and energized, began to integrate the 9 treasure jade rui into his body. It took him a full 3 days to successfully integrate the 9 treasure jade rui into his body, causing a 9-colored rui pattern to appear on his chest. The instant he completed the integration, Lu Changxing immediately felt an immense force surge from his chest, refining his flesh, blood vessels, and bones. This effect was completely 2 or 3 times that of the black dragon magical bead. The reason it was only 2 to 3 times more was simply because this efficiency had already reached the limit of his physical body. Any further increase would place a burden on his physique. Unworthy as it is to be called a celestial spiritual treasure, with this 9 treasure jade rui, I'm afraid that in 3 or 4 years, my 100 refinements treasure body art will be able to break through the 5th layer. Lu Changsheng gently stroked the area on his chest, his joyful eyes revealing a look of anticipation. After all, the 9 great divine abilities of the 9 treasure jade rui were something he coveted greatly. Once the 9 treasure jade rui is refined into his life-bound treasured bone, these 9 divine abilities would also become his innate divine abilities. His strength would then see an overall enhancement. Unlike before with the black dragon magical bead, where the Baogu method, after years of nurturing through the magical treasure, could only unleash one strike of the treasure bone's power. Once the power of the treasure bones was exhausted, it needed to be nurtured anew. After resting for 3 days, Lu Changsheng reintegrated the black dragon treasure bead into his left hand. Although with the 9 treasure jade rui now, whether he needed this black dragon magical bead was irrelevant. But since the 9 treasure jade rui was ultimately to be refined into his life-bound treasure bone, the less origin source that was lost, the better. After finishing his task, he glanced at the golden armor bean mother in his courtyard. Under the nurturing of the 3-colored soil, initial results were showing as the bean sprouts began to sprout leaves faintly. It should be noted that this golden armor bean mother had only been planted for 2 years. Satisfied with the progress, Lu Changxing nodded and then rode the iron feather eagle back to Red Leaf Valley Market. This half-year, besides occasionally visiting his wife and children in Rui Prefecture, he had been mostly at Qingzhou Mountain or Red Leaf Valley Market. Due to the prior incident with the robber cultivator, the traffic at Red Leaf Valley Market had significantly declined. This had affected the business of his Peace Talisman Hall as well. However, the impact wasn't major. The main income of his shop came from the 5 supreme talismans he issued each month. The total income of the entire shop didn't compare to the profit from these 5 supreme talismans. Sister Miaoga, you have completed your cultivation technique transition. Upon arriving at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changsheng saw Lu Miaoga and could tell at a glance that her spiritual power had all transformed into the Saturn solar spiritual energy. I was actually planning to tell you this good news, but I didn't expect you, Changsheng, to notice it right away, said Lu Miaoga, her elegant and gentle demeanor as serene as water. I also cultivate this technique, so I can easily sense it, Lu Changsheng said with a light laugh. He continued to inquire, Sister Miaoga, how much did your cultivation level get affected by completing the technique transition? Generally, transitioning to a new cultivation technique incurs some loss. This technique and the previously cultivated Xianyuan Ju are both water attribute cultivation techniques, so the loss wasn't much, roughly 20%, she said. Although 20% was lost, I can feel my spiritual power is 20% more profound, Lu Miaoga said excitedly, her beautiful eyes shimmering. She could clearly sense the sophistication and power of the Saturn solar sword technique. That's good. Lu Changxing nodded, thinking the loss was manageable. After all, compared to the foundation increase, this slight setback in cultivation wasn't significant. It could be recovered with a bit more time and effort. Afterward, he also further instructed and taught Lu Miaoge about the cultivation of the Saturn Solar Sword technique, as well as the accompanying techniques. Chapter 391. Encountering the girl you like, bring them all back _one time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another half-year had passed. Over this half-year, Lu Changxing's life remained as monotonous yet fulfilling as ever. Every day, he practiced cultivation, crafted talismans, produced offspring, and then dual cultivated with Xianxia. In this year, he had 9 more children, bringing the total to 138. And after such a long time of dual cultivation, Xiaoxia's Tao foundation was almost fully restored. Inside the cave abode, accompanied by a low roar and a soft moan, Lu Changsheng and Xiaoxi ended their cultivation. The two quietly embraced each other, savoring the lingering feelings afterwards. Changsheng, after 2 or 3 more times, the cracks and fissures in my Tao foundation should be able to heal, Xiaoxia said softly while snuggled against Lu Changsheng's chest, her face blushing. These 2 or 3 times, naturally, didn't just refer to dual cultivation, but to the restoration of the Tao foundation through the yin-yang energies. Let me take a look. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng took Xiaoxia's wrist and inspected her Tao foundation with his divine sense. The cracks and fissures on the Tao pedestal were almost invisible now. It seems to be really fast. Shiyu, didn't you say that my yin-yang energies not only repair the Tao foundation, but also resonate with your Tao foundation, resulting in transformation? Can you feel how much longer it will take to undergo this change? Lu Changsheng, playing with the full and silky skin, piled up like snow, asked out loud. I feel that when my Tao foundation is completely repaired, it will undergo some kind of change, Xiaoxia said. Oh, that's quite a fortunate turn of events. Congratulations to you, Shiyu. Lu Changsheng chuckled softly. Changsheng, aren't you worried that it'll leave you once my Tao foundation is fully restored? Xiaoxia, seeing the casual look on Lu Changsheng's face, pouted slightly. I've said before, I will respect all of your choices, Lu Changsheng said with a sincere look in his eyes. She doesn't believe it. You must be saying one thing and thinking another, convinced that I surely can't escape the palm of your hand. Xiaoxia snorted softly. Her mind was sharp and clear, and having been with Lu Changxing for so long, she had realized that he was not one to let go easily. Deep down, he was incredibly possessive and imperious. These words were just to comfort herself, not wanting to make herself feel upset. Of course, while I do respect you, how could my love for Shiyu be something I can just let go of so easily? Lu Changxing said with a wry smile. As the two were having a tender conversation, a system notification sounded in Lu Changsheng's mind. Congratulations to the host for your first offspring to break through to the martial Tao innate, resulting in bloodline effect, 5% increase in the probability of offspring reproduction, and 1 lottery draw opportunity. As the system notification sounded, a surge of vital energy force suddenly entered Lu Changsheng's body out of thin air. This strength of an innate martial artist brought no significant enhancement to Lu Changsheng, who had cultivated the 100 Refinements Treasure Body technique to the 4th level. The improvement it brought was minute. However, compared to the feedback when Lu Xianji and Lu Qianjin completed their Qi introduction, it was much stronger. Pingan has broken through to the innate level. Lu Changsheng paused momentarily in thought. He knew it was his son Lu Pingan who had broken through to the martial Tao innate. When he had returned to Rui Prefecture previously, Lu Pingan had told him that he would be able to break through to the martial Tao innate in a few months. Counting the time, it was indeed about right. It had not occurred to Lu Changsheng that the children's breakthrough to martial Tao innate would also come with system achievement rewards. In the past, when his children practiced martial arts, the system had not prompted anything. and the strength displayed on the panel was marked as none. He had thought that there was no system achievement reward in this regard. Only after the system notification sounded did he realize that only after reaching the martial Tao innate does it meet the condition for triggering achievement rewards. It seems that in the system achievements, one is considered to have only started martial arts upon the breakthrough to the innate level, corresponding to a cultivator's introduction of qi into the body. For ordinary people, achieving the martial Tao innate is extremely difficult. But for me, as long as I am willing to spend money and the children are willing to train, they can basically achieve the martial Tao innate by the age of 20. Indeed, the system achievement rewards cannot depend solely on having children. It is necessary to foster their development. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. He had his children practice martial arts, partly with the idea of enhancing his own martial strength. However, as his own strength improved, he became less focused on this idea. Raising his children in martial arts had more to do with strengthening their bodies. Moreover, it gave them the ability to protect themselves in case of danger in the secular world. Previously, it was the increase in probability of spiritual root amongst the offspring. Now, it's an increase in the probability of offspring reproduction every time a cultivator breaks through a cultivation realm. Reproduction becomes more difficult. I wonder how significant this 5% probability increase is. Moreover, this increase in probability is probably only on my part. But the difficulty of cultivators conceiving increases after gaining strength, and it's the same for both male and female cultivators. Lu Changsheng, looking at the increase of 5% probability for offspring reproduction on the system prompt, pondered silently. He knew that each major realm breakthrough made reproduction more difficult for cultivators. But he had no way to judge just how much more difficult it had become. And there were no records of this in the cultivation world. After all, everyone practices different cultivation techniques, condenses different Tao foundations, has different personal situations, and the final outcomes could be different. Moreover, not many cultivators would study such matters. Changsheng, what's wrong? Just then, Xianxia noticed Lu Changsheng was slightly lost in thought and asked, "Nothing, I was just thinking about something." Lu Changsheng, hearing Xianxia's voice, immediately came back to reality and chuckled. Hearing his response, Xianxia did not inquire further. The two continued to chat leisurely for a while, and then lay down to sleep in each other's arms. The next day, Lu Changsheng left Xianxia's cave abode and went to his own peace talisman hall. Chapter 392. Encountering the girl you like, bring them all back. Although he did not often come here, he still had his own meditation room and talisman room on the 3rd floor. System, draw a lottery. After arriving at the 3rd floor meditation room, Lu Changsheng silently evoked in his heart. Immediately, the system's lottery wheel appeared. Start the draw. Then, a golden light began to rapidly spin on the lottery wheel. Moments later, the golden light slowly came to a stop on other. Ding! Congratulations to the host on obtaining the goo insect, Hope Goo. The reward has been sent to the system space, and the host can check it at any time. A thumb-sized pattern, resembling a light orb, emerged from the big wheel along with the sound of the system prompt. Goo insect, Hope Goo. Lu Changsheng raised an eyebrow upon seeing this reward. Having the peach blossom goo before, he subconsciously felt good about goo insects. After all, among the more than 20 previous lottery items, the peach blossom goo could be considered a good reward. It not only improved one's appearance and temperament, but also subtly enhanced one's peach blossom luck. It could also guard the sea of consciousness, fear no other goo insect effects, and resist divine sense attacks. Just the name Hope Goo sounds strange. Lu Changsheng muttered to himself, unable to guess the effect of the goo based on the name alone. Right away, his mental spirit stirred slightly as he looked toward the system space. Goo insect. Hope Goo. Quality. Celestial spiritual goo. Description. A miraculous goo naturally born between heaven and earth that can endow mortals with enlightenment and give birth to the spiritual root. As long as there is hope, miracles can happen. enabling mortals to gain enlightenment and produce spiritual roots. Lu Changsheng's heart skipped a beat upon seeing the explanation for the hope goo. Long ago, he had perused books looking for information on how mortals could cultivate and beget spiritual roots, but there were no relevant records at all. He knew that it was virtually impossible for mortals to practice cultivation, and treasures that could bestow spiritual roots on mortals could only be encountered after reaching the nascent soul stage. Although he had thought that with the system, he might obtain such treasures and enable mortals to practice cultivation and develop spiritual roots, Lu Changsheng did not hold too much hope. After all, where there's hope, there can also be disappointment. Of course, Lu Changsheng could not deny that he did not have a strong obsession with this aspect. Hope goo. A ray of hope, huh? Lu Changsheng, looking at the hope goo in the system space, recalled taking Lu Pingan and others to test for spiritual roots. After finding no spiritual roots, the children returned home with downcast faces. Then Lu Pingan looked up with hopeful eyes and asked if one couldn't become a cultivator without a spiritual root. This hope goo could only enlighten one person, or Lu Changsheng's mental spirit stirred slightly, and he extracted the hope goo from the system. Suddenly, the hope goo, the size of a thumb and resembling an orb of light, appeared in his hand. The details about the hope goo entered his mind. Just like the peach blossom goo, it could only be used once, enabling a person to gain enlightenment and produce a spiritual root. As for the quality of the engendered spiritual root, it would depend on the individual's circumstances and be influenced by one's physical condition and the intensity of hope in their heart. Besides enlightenment and the production of spiritual roots, the hope goo had another effect. That is, in the face of desperate situations, as long as hope remained unextinguished in one's heart, the goo could forcibly trigger one's potential. Sigh, he'll give his hope goo to Pingan. Lu Changsheng looked at the hope goo in his hand and let out a breath. He planned to give the hope goo to his eldest son, Lu Pingan. This was his first son. He had been brought up from a young age, to whom he had devoted much affection. Moreover, this son had always been a source of pride and peace of mind. Now that Lu Pingan had broken through to the martial Dao innate and obtained a lottery draw, it seemed like a stroke of fate that he got the hope goo. However, the hope goo's ability to enlighten mortals and engender spiritual roots is too shocking to the world. If I use the hope goo to enlighten Pingan now, it might attract trouble. And there's the issue of inequality, not just scarcity. The hope goo is just one, only able to grant a spiritual root to one person. Other children, who once thought spiritual roots were innate and had accepted reality, may now become upset and resentful upon seeing Pingan with a spiritual root. Therefore, the existence of the hope goo must absolutely be kept a secret. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. He knew many of his children had dreams of cultivation, or rather, having been born on Qingzhou Mountain and raised in such an environment, it was impossible for them not to aspire to become cultivators. But since spiritual roots are innate and they didn't possess them, accepting reality was their only option. If they saw that he enabled Lu Pingan to develop a spiritual root, it would easily upset the balance. Even his wives, upon knowing that he possessed such an object and chose to give it to Lu Pingan, would feel uncomfortable, even if they did not voice it. Pingan has just broken through to the innate level and is preparing to travel abroad for trials. It's a good opportunity for him to temper himself. Later on, they'll see how things go and decide whether to give him the hope goo. As for the hope goo matter, there's no need to let anyone know. After all, not every cup of water can be leveled. Lu Changsheng did not think much of it. He was no longer the kind of person who would become overly anxious or sentimental over such issues. He already had plans for the hope goo in his mind. He prepared to wait until Lu Pingan went out to experience the world, and after some tempering, he would then decide whether to give him the hope goo. Moreover, what he had in mind was that if he used the hope goo to open Lu Pingan's spiritual aperture and birth a spiritual root, his eldest son would have to live outside under a different identity from then on. He could no longer appear before the world as Lu Pingon. A man is not guilty for carrying a gem, but the gem makes him a target. I should also visit Rui Prefecture later. Chapter 393. Encountering the girl you like. Bring them all back. Lu Changsheng took out a jade box, stored the hope goo inside, and then placed it into the spiritual pet bag. Initially, when Lu Pingon said he wanted to go out for training experiences, he told him to break through to the innate level first. Now that he had broken through to innate, he naturally wouldn't say much more. But with his son leaving home, as a father, there were naturally some things he needed to explain. After speaking with Lu Miaoge and Xianxia, Lu Changxing rode the Iron Feather Eagle back to Qingzhou Mountain. After dealing with some minor matters and staying for half a month on Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Changsheng took Bai Ling with him to Rui Prefecture. By now, Bai Ling's cultivation level had reached the 3rd level of qi refinement. It was estimated that before long, she would break through to the 4th level of qi refinement. This rate of progress was truly astonishing. Lu Changsheng guessed that his earlier assumption of Bai Ling having a high-grade spiritual root was actually an underestimation. Given Bai Ling's speed of cultivation, she was likely to reach perfection in qi refinement and be ready for a foundation establishment in her 20s. Linger, aren't you bored being at Qingzhou Mountain every day? As the Iron Feather Eagle soared through the sky, Lu Changsheng asked Bai Ling, "Not all. Everyone here is so nice. Sister Yin, Sister Jinjin, Sister Jiwe, they all treat me so well. And Rui, Xiaoru, Qingshan, and Xiaozhu often play with me too." Upon hearing this, Bai Ling immediately responded cheerfully. In her eyes, Qingzhou Mountain was nothing short of a paradise on earth. Not only did they not dislike or shun her here, but they also liked her very much, took care of her, and played with her. So, after spending a little over a year on Qingzhou Mountain, Bai Ling's personality had become much more cheerful. She was no longer the same as before, socially anxious and tense when meeting people, her face timid and afraid. Of course, this cheerfulness was currently limited to being within Lu Changsheng's estate, in front of the wives, maids, and children of Lu Changsheng. Once she stepped outside the estate, facing other people on Qingzhou Mountain, she became quiet and reticent again. But it was already much better than before. That's good. If there's anything, you can talk directly to your sister Yin. If it's not convenient, you can also talk directly to your brother. Seeing Bai Ling's happy face, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but smile gently. He rubbed the little girl's head, which was adorned with 2 buns. This had become a habit of his, and Bai Ling thoroughly enjoyed being affectionately rubbed on the head by him. 3 days later, the two arrived at Rui County City. Walking along the bustling streets of Rui County City, witnessing the passing crowds, the little girl became instantly nervous, holding tightly to Lu Changsheng's hand. "Big brother is here." Seeing this, Lu Changsheng gently squeezed her soft little hand and smiled warmly. Looking at Lu Changsheng's handsome and unsurpassed appearance, his dashing and transcendent aura, and his warm and gentle smile, Bai Ling pursed her lips, feeling much of her tension dissipate. It was only with Lu Changsheng by her side that she dared to walk on such a busy street filled with people coming and going. If she were alone, she wouldn't have stepped out in a place with so many people. "My lord, Mississippi." The two arrived at the Lu residence. The steward and guards at the entrance of the residence promptly greeted them with a bow. Lu Changsheng nodded his head and entered the mansion with Bai Ling. Dad. Husband Linger. Returning home was naturally a bustling affair. All the wives and children came to greet them. The first batch of children had all grown quite a bit. They no longer clung affectionately like they did when they were little, eager to be hugged. As for the younger batch of children, due to spending less time together, their relationship with Lu Changsheng as a father was relatively less intimate. They greeted their father with respectful salutes. After briefly caring for and greeting his wives and children, and seeing that most of the people had dispersed, Lu Chongsheng looked towards his son Lu Pingan, who had been standing silently by the side. Pingan, why are you standing there looking lost? Is there something you want to talk to Dad about? Lu Chongsheng said with a light chuckle. He knew his son wanted to tell him about his breakthrough to the innate level, but he hadn't spoken up as there were always people around. Dad, I've broken through to the innate level. Lu Pingan immediately said with a beaming smile. Breaking through to the innate level, not bad, worthy of being my son. I remember you're just over a month shy of turning 16. TSK. Breaking through to the martial Dao innate level before 16, you'd be considered a genius in the martial world. Lu Chongsheng patted his son's shoulder and said with a beaming smile, observing his son closely. Thanks to practicing martial arts from a young age, Lu Pingan had a very robust stature, but he didn't appear overly muscular, exuding a feel of being tall and vigorous. His height was almost 1.75 meters, only slightly shorter than him. He guessed in another 2 years, the boy would catch up with him. The son's appearance couldn't be considered handsome, only fair, and he only bore a slight resemblance to his father's profile. This was entirely due to Lu Chongsheng practicing the immortal beauty technique and the improvements from peach blossom goo. Moreover, Lu Pingan's features were fair with a hint of firmness and toughness, while Lu Chongsheng himself was handsome and transcendent, smooth and jade-like. The father and son exuded completely different temperaments. It's all thanks to your upbringing, Dad. If it weren't for eating spirit rice and spiritual meals every day, how could my martial arts have progressed so quickly? Lu Pingan scratched his head and said with a wide grin. You mentioned before that you wanted to travel, and Dad told you to wait until you've broken through to innate. Now that you've achieved innate, Dad naturally won't stop you. Do you have any plans in mind? Lu Chongsheng sat down with his son on the side and asked aloud. In truth, he wasn't very reassured about Lu Pingan's journey outside, because his son had a kind and honest nature. Under Lu Lanshu's education, although he had become somewhat shrewd, he was still straightforward. Chapter 394. Encountering the girl you like. Bring them all back under score 4. I don't have any grand plans, just thinking of visiting Grandpa, Li's place first. Instructor Zhao, Instructor Mu, and Uncle Li, Uncle Hong have all said that the Jianghu is dangerous. Before, Uncle Li mentioned that if I wanted to go out and travel, I could first go to the Crimson Whale Gang to see the perils of Jianghu, and then decide whether or not I want to venture far. Lu Pingan spoke honestly. It's good that you have this idea. Go to the Crimson Whale Gang to gain some experience is also a good start. Hong Yi nodded in agreement upon hearing this. Because of their relationship with Hong Yi and Li Feiyu, the three families had much more interaction with each other. Under the care of Hong Yi, Li Feiyu's Crimson Whale Gang had been thriving, consistently handling Jianghu affairs for the Rui Marquis Mansion. It was not a bad idea for Lu Pingan to gain some experience at the Crimson Whale Gang. At least he would face some real situations. Otherwise, letting his son wander around aimlessly was something he, as a father, couldn't be at ease with. Dad, there's just Mom's side that he'll need you to talk to. Lu Pingan scratched his head, looking somewhat embarrassed as he spoke. What? She learned you wanted to travel, and she objected, didn't she? Lan Shu burst into laughter upon hearing this. His wife Lu Lan Shu had the demeanor of a well-brought-up lady and naturally disliked her son engaging in fights and killings. Especially since Lu Pingan was the eldest son, she always hoped that he would read more, learn to conduct himself in society, and manage family affairs. Initially, she had consented to allow the child to practice martial arts because Lan Shu had said all the children were training for the sake of strengthening their bodies and maintaining health. Otherwise, she would be reluctant to let Lu Pingan be engrossed in martial arts training. I mentioned it to Mom before. Not only did she refuse, but she also said that I'm not getting any younger and asked me what I think of Sister Schwerer. But I've always seen Sister Schwerer as if she were my own sister. Lu Pingan said, feeling helpless. The Sister Schwerer he referred to was named Li Schwerer, the daughter of Li Feiyu. She was 2 years younger than Lu Pingan, gentle, and sensible, also favored by Lu Lanshu. Therefore, she also wished for this young girl to become her daughter-in-law. However, your mother is also right. You're indeed not young anymore. Lanshu stroked his chin and said, in this world, being married at 16 was considered normal. Although Li Shui'er was still a little young, Lanshu had brought up the matter to set things in motion early on. Dad. Upon hearing this, Lu Pinggan's face immediately fell. All right. They'll talk to her about your mom's side in a bit. However, it's true that you're old enough to start considering these things. If you don't like Shui'er, that's fine. After all, you grew up together. When you go out to travel in the Jianghu in the future, if you meet a girl you like, be sure to bring her back. You understand? Lanshu said cheerfully. Although his children's children would also bring benefits to him, he might even be eligible for system achievement rewards. But Lanshu would not pressure his children to marry and have children. If they were willing, that would be the best. He would give them considerable support and substantial rewards. If they didn't want to, he wouldn't force them, just letting things take their natural course. Yes, Dad. Seeing his father also address the matter, Lu Pinggan's face showed resignation, as if he had deflated. Don't look so down. Dad's not forcing you. Just don't let a good match pass you by. Let's go. He'll talk to your mother. Lanshu, seeing his son like this, gave the boy's head an affectionate yet exasperated tap. He suddenly understood the feelings of parents who urge their children to marry. If Lu Pinggan wasn't getting married now, he wouldn't be in a hurry or worried. After all, he was still young. He had several children too. But if his children grew older and he only had 1 or 2 kids, then surely he would be a bit anxious. Soon after, the two of them came to the backyard. Lanshu looked towards his wife Lu Lanshu. Lu Lanshu was the same age as him. They had been married for nearly 17 years now. Although she didn't look as youthful as he did, still in his 20s, she had taken beautifying elixirs, and, thanks to the nourishment of spirit rice over a long period, her skin was white and delicate, her face as tender and lovely as a lotus flower, relatively untouched by the traces of time. Her figure was also slender and graceful, showing no signs of having given birth to 3 children. My Lord Pinggan, Lu Lanshu, seeing her husband and son, walked forward gracefully. Her hair was neatly coiffed, adorned with a jade hairpin on the side. Dressed in a light turquoise palace gown, she exuded an air of dignified grace. As the wife of Lanshu, she had come to manage many affairs of the Lu residence, developing an air of majestic elegance. Lanshu, I already know about what's concerning Pinggan. He's not young anymore. Since he wants to go out and see the world, let's allow him. Lanshu looked at his wife, taking her hand, and spoke warmly. He understood his wife's sentiments. She hoped that Lu Pinggan would inherit the family's secular business. Upon hearing this, Lu Lanshu immediately glared at her son, causing Lu Pinggan to lower his head, unable to look at his mother. She bit her lip and said, My lord, I really can't rest at ease with Pinggan's character. If he goes out, who knows what will happen with all the fighting and killing out there. Her reluctance to let Lu Pinggan go out was not solely because she wanted her son to settle down early and take over the family business, but also because she knew what her son was like, easy to take advantage of and too naive for the outside world. Lanshu, I understand how you feel. You hope for Pinggan to be safe and sound. I, too, wish for Pinggan to always be safe, which was why I chose his name with that intention. But an eagle must eventually soar to the heavens, facing the abyss, the winds, and the waves, alone. It's an essential part of growing up. Although Pinggan could avoid these experiences, it's also a good thing if he's willing to face them. That way, I can trust him with more responsibilities in the future. Lanshu smiled gently, speaking to his wife. After a bit of casual conversation, Lu Lanshu finally nodded in agreement. Though it was extremely hard for her to let go, if Lanshu spoke up, she couldn't continue to object. After all, Lanshu was the head of the family. Chapter 395. Xianxia is pregnant. revealing second-rank talisman making. _1. At the Lu residence's back courtyard, the training ground. This is a low-grade attack talisman. Activate it with your true chi, then shoot it towards the target. Lu Changsheng took out a stack of talismans, letting his son Lu Pingon get acquainted with their use. Since the child was going to travel far, as a father, he naturally prepared some self-defense measures. This was also one of the reasons he had Lu Pingon break through to Martial Dao innate before leaving. Once Martial Dao innate is achieved, a martial artist's true chi can also activate first-grade, middle-grade, and low-grade talismans. Yes, Dad. After hearing this, Lu Pingon took a fire bullet talisman and activated it with his true chi. Instantly, the talisman transformed into a fire bullet and shot towards the iron target ahead. With a bang, the iron target melted from the hit of the fire bullet. This such formidable power. If I were to be hit by this fire bullet, I fear I'd turn to ash. Lu Pingon was surprised at the fire bullet's power, his eyes filled with shock. He knew cultivators were very formidable, but he had never seen a cultivator's methods before. Now seeing the power of a simple talisman, he couldn't help but be astonished. That's why when you're out and about, if you encounter a cultivator, you must be extremely careful. If you meet a cultivator and there's no mortal enmity, you can also mention Qingzhou Mountain's name, Lu Changsheng said. Although Qingzhou Mountain was only a foundation establishment family, such cultivation families still held a certain reputation and prestige in the secular world. Just like before, he had also heard of Qingzhou Mountain's renown. Dad, I understand. Lu Pingon nodded earnestly. This is a fire cloud talisman. You must be very careful when using this talisman. Otherwise, it's easy to injure yourself. This is a rejuvenation insignia. If you're injured, you can use the rejuvenation insignia to stop the bleeding and heal wounds. This is a wooden shield talisman, which can transform into a wooden shield for defense. This is a windwalking talisman. If you encounter danger, you can use it on yourself or on your horse to speed up. These types of talismans belong to the defensive and assistance category. They won't hurt you, so you don't need to be so cautious. Lu Changsheng informed his son about the remaining types of talismans and reminded him to remember their effects. Dad, these many talismans, aren't they very expensive? Lu Pingon, seeing the thick stack of talismans his father had, probably 40 or 50 sheets, asked. Although he didn't understand much about cultivation, he occasionally interacted with those involved in that world and knew that cultivation materials were very precious. Have you forgotten that your dad is a talisman master? Lu Changsheng gave his son a tap on the head. After Lu Pingon practiced using each kind of talisman and understood their effects, Lu Changsheng handed him several vials and pots. They contained elixirs for healing wounds, recharging energy, among others. Although they were nothing to cultivators, they were all treasures within the secular world. This pendant has a calming and protective effect. Remember, if this pendant activates automatically, you must run away immediately, understand? This soft armor is impenetrable by blade or spear, and it also has a protective effect. Remember to wear it against your skin at all times. Lu Changsheng then took out 2 magic artifacts. These 2 artifacts were also carefully selected from those he had acquired at the Red Leaf Valley Market before. He didn't give more, not because he was reluctant to do so. One reason was to not attract attention. These 2 artifacts could be worn on the body without others easily noticing. Moreover, most magic artifacts required mana to activate. Martial artists simply couldn't employ magic artifacts. Having these 2 was enough. Thank you, Dad. Lu Pingon looked at the purple jade pendant and the silkworm soft armor in front of him, his face showing joy. I don't need to elaborate the principle of not showing wealth, right? Lu Changsheng spoke out. Dad, rest assured, I understand these things. Lu Pingon used a nod to convey his understanding. Let's go. Let's pick out a good horse at your Uncle Hong's, Lu Changsheng said to his son. They then went to the Rui Marquis mansion, where he caught up and chatted with Hong Yi. He talked about his son Lu Pingon and also about his son Lu Wuyu, asking Hong Yi to make arrangements. Hearing these words, Hong Yi naturally agreed to each request with pleasure. After staying in Rui Prefecture for more than half a month, sorting out various family matters, Lu Changsheng finally took Bai Ling back to Qingzhou Mountain. 2 months later, Red Leaf Valley Market. Inside a cave dwelling, Lu Changsheng and Xianxia finished dual cultivation. Pop! Xianxia rose and sat cross-legged, her visage cool, pure, majestic, and utterly sacred. Her ice-fleshed and jade-boned figure, with undertones of rosiness, looked like a fairy's form, a perfectly crafted work of art, too beautiful for words, bathed in a faint moonlight glow. Her graceful and elegant composure was filled with a holy air. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng knew that Xiaoxia's Tao Foundation flaw had been perfected through his efforts and was now flawless. At that moment, with the Tao Foundation restored, a mysterious transformation had started happening to it, beginning to evolve. He sat quietly by her side, waiting for Xiaoxia to awaken. Chapter 396. Xiaoxia is pregnant, revealing second-rank talisman making. Naturally, it filled her with unparalleled joy. Hee, this is our joint effort. Lu Changsheng smiled. Then, curious, he asked, Xiyu, what transformation has your Tao Foundation undergone? My Tao Foundation is now known as the Lunar Primordial Spirit Foundation. It allows me to absorb and refine nature's spiritual energy at an increased rate, and I can consume my origin source to transform nature's spiritual energy into lunar mana for my own replenishment. Xiaoxia spoke out, describing the effects of her Tao Foundation's transformation. The increased rate of absorbing and refining nature's spiritual energy, and the ability to consume the origin source to transform nature's spiritual energy into lunar mana. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng nodded his head. He knew this effect sounded simple, but it was astonishing. The speed of absorbing and refining nature's spiritual energy improved both Xiaoxia's cultivation speed and recovery rate. And converting nature's spiritual energy into lunar mana meant that in times of crisis, when mana was low, she could replenish it quickly. After all, not all cultivators were like him, with a profound origin bead at their side, free to use mana as they pleased. Most cultivators had to consider their mana consumption on a regular basis. Between two cultivators of the same rank, the one with deeper and more enduring mana would have a greater advantage. Not bad. It seems much more powerful than my Yin-Yang 5 Elements Foundation base. Lu Changsheng said cheerfully. How could it compare to Lu Lang? Xiaoxia leaned her pretty head against Lu Changsheng's chest and whispered softly. Indeed, after its transformation, her Tao Foundation produced remarkable effects. But to her, the effects of Lu Changsheng's Tao Foundation, which could repair someone else's Tao Foundation, were even more astonishing. Xiyu, what are your plans next? Lu Changsheng inquired of Xiaoxia. From their previous conversation, he knew Xiaoxia had come down the mountain on an approved mission for external experience. She couldn't stay out forever. Now that her Tao Foundation's cracks were mended, she was likely preparing to return to the sect. Xiaoxia was holding Lu Changsheng's slender and jade-like palm, comparing the sizes of their hands. Upon hearing this, she lifted her pretty head and, with a pitiable look, said, Is Lu Lang finding me bothersome, wanting to send me away? I never said that. I'd actually prefer you to stay by my side forever. Lu Changsheng said with a light chuckle, sniffing the fragrance from Xiaoxia's hair. Xiaoxia let out a coquettish grunt, her fair cheeks blushing as she spoke softly. Lu Lang, wouldn't it be nice if Xiyu bore you a child? What? Lu Changsheng was taken aback, thinking he had heard wrong. But he immediately guessed Xiaoxia's thoughts. Did she feel that she couldn't repay the favor and wanted to have his child as compensation? Xiyu, there's no need for that. Lu Changsheng frowned slightly. He did fancy the idea of having a few children with Xiaoxia. See what the children's spiritual root talent would be. But feelings develop over time. After so many years together, they had built quite a relationship. To bear children simply to repay a debt of gratitude, he was unwilling to do so. Moreover, a child and the child's mother were things he could distinguish between. It's not about repaying Lu Lang's favor with this. I just genuinely want to have a child with Lu Lang. That way, even if Xiyu is gone in the future, this child can stay by Lu Lang's side. Xianxia pursed her lips and spoke softly, sharing her thoughts. Back in Qingyun Market, Lu Changsheng had jokingly said if she felt bad, they should have a few children. After hearing that, the idea planted itself in her heart and started to grow. Gradually, she began to feel there was sense in what Lu Changsheng had said. Have a child to commemorate their relationship. If she were gone, the child would remain by Lu Changsheng's side for companionship. As for concerns about leaving and the child lacking a mother, she had come to terms with it. Firstly, with Lu Changsheng around, the child would surely not be bullied. Additionally, it wasn't as if she would sever all ties with Lu Changsheng and leave after giving birth. Only when preparing to attempt core formation would she need to truly penetrate the void of delusions and forget all attachments. She would still get to watch the child grow up. Furthermore, after all her experiences, she came to believe that forgetting all attachments didn't necessarily mean completely abandoning love and affection. Xiyu, if you have a child, won't your master blame you? Lu Changsheng voiced his concern. Having a child was an affair that wasn't too problematic for female cultivators, though it still had significant impacts. 3 months into pregnancy, cultivation would become nearly impossible. In the later stages, it would affect their cultivation level, leaving them in a weakened state. And after giving birth, they need to recover their vital energy for about a year or so. While the impact might seem negligible, for cultivators, the nature of this was different. After all, the prime age for giving birth is also the best age for cultivation. If they have several children, that time could be considered wasted. It would require much effort to make up for the lost time. And Lu Changsheng felt her master would blame her for a simple reason. Chapter 397. If Master knew how deep I've fallen, that I'm even having a child with Lu Changsheng, I dare not even imagine what she would do. Even if Master dotes on me, she would probably be furious. Hee, what if your master finds out? Lu Changsheng looked at Xianxia with a smile and said, If you don't want to, then forget it. Xianxia retorted with a snort. It took her a great deal of courage to say these words. After so many years of anticipation, she had waited until the day her Tao Foundation was fully repaired to tell Lu Changsheng. Willing, I'm naturally willing. Lu Changsheng chuckled lightly, leaned down gently, and captured Xiaoxia's lips. Now that she had expressed her feelings so clearly, he had no reservations anymore. Having a child, it would add yet another bond between him and Xiaoxia, another concern. In the following time, Lu Changsheng spent most of his days in the Hongyan marketplace, devoting himself to Xiaoxia. Perhaps because both were foundation establishment cultivators, getting pregnant was much more difficult. After over a month of effort without any reaction, having no other choice, Lu Changsheng had to resort to his secret technique, the 5 aggregates proliferation method. This secret method could be practiced by men to increase the likelihood of pregnancy. Women could also practice it to boost their chances. Both partners cultivating together would naturally double the effect. Changsheng, I think I'm pregnant. And so, after another month of effort, Xiaoxia felt the signs of pregnancy and happily told Lu Changsheng, We're pregnant. At her words, delight immediately shone on Lu Changsheng's face. Xiaoxia had a 4th grade spiritual root and a moonlight spirit body, and was also a foundation establishment cultivator. He too was a foundation establishment cultivator with a 5th grade spiritual root and a Gungjin spirit body. Under such conditions, the chances were high that the child would be extraordinarily talented. Therefore, regarding the child in Xiaoxia's womb, he couldn't help but harbor some expectations. He looked forward to the child bringing them surprises. Very good. Xiyu, take extra care of yourself from now on. Is there anything in particular you want to eat? Lu Changsheng said warmly. I know. Seeing Lu Changsheng so happy and excited, Xiaoxia couldn't help but show a slightly annoyed smile on her gorgeous face. She thought to herself that Lu Changsheng truly loved children. Normally, when they were together, she seldom saw him so thrilled and excited. Afterward, Lu Changsheng spent some time chatting with Xiaoxia, mentioning some prenatal care tips. He took her out of the cave, dwelling to stroll around the streets and relax. After all, now that she was pregnant, maintaining both physical and mental health was a must. As a second-rank talisman master, it's about time I made it known. After spending time with Xiaoxia, Lu Changsheng considered his progress in talisman making. He felt that the time was about right. Now that Xiaoxia was pregnant, he would need to devote more thought to this matter, and there was no point in delaying any further. Being a second-rank talisman master would make acting more convenient. Soon after, Lu Changsheng went to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. After a chat with Lu Miaoge and some conversation, he entered the talisman room and began crafting talismans. After a long while, Lu Changsheng stepped out of the talisman room with a newly crafted second-rank talisman in hand, a look of excitement and joy on his face. "Sister Miaoge, I did it! I've successfully crafted a second-rank talisman," Lu Changsheng stated. His face lit up with joy and excitement. He handed the second-rank talisman he held to Lu Miaoge for inspection. "A second-rank talisman? Changsheng, you've succeeded." Lu Miaoge, her delicate and gentle features first stunned, then lit up with excitement too. She had always kept an eye on Lu Changsheng's progress in talisman crafting. Knowing that he was just one step away from becoming a second-rank talisman master, she believed fervently that he could take that step. But hearing now that Lu Changsheng had advanced to a second-rank talisman master still felt surreal, causing an irrepressible excitement and joy. After all, the difference between first grade and second rank was like a chasm, vast as that between chi refinement and foundation establishment. Now, having crossed this chasm and ascending from first grade to second-rank talisman master, how could she, his wife, not be thrilled? "Changsheng, I always knew you could do it, that you would make it." Lu Miaoge looked at Lu Changsheng with sparkling eyes, full of tenderness and love. "This time was just a fluke. But I believe, with time, I will be able to fully master this second-rank Thunderfire talisman." Lu Changsheng spoke, his voice carrying a hint of confidence. He, too, considered himself somewhat accomplished by now. If he kept being too modest, always speaking of luck, it would seem fake. "Yes, I believe you can do it, Changsheng. I'll go and inform the family head, fourth elder, and our ancestors about this news," Lu Miaoge said excitedly. Advancing to second-rank talisman master was an event that would merit a celebration for the whole Qingzhou Mountain. He'll return to Qingzhou Mountain in a few days, so I'll tell Grandma myself when the time comes, Lu Changsheng said with a smile. He could imagine the fourth elder's feelings upon hearing about his promotion to second-rank talisman master. The old man had always believed in him and eagerly anticipated the day he would become a second-rank talisman master. "All right, it is best for you to tell Grandma in person." Lu Miaoge nodded, her face still beaming with happiness. She also knew that the fourth elder would be overjoyed to hear the news. Once she calmed her emotions, she began examining the second-rank Thunderfire talisman in Lu Changsheng's hands. The lines on the talisman were not as smoothly executed as they could be, and the spiritual power was a bit unstable, making it seem slightly rough. But it was indeed a genuine second-rank talisman. Lu Miaoge held it in her hands, examining it over and over. The more she looked, the happier she became. Seeing his wife, so Lu Changsheng felt a deep satisfaction in his heart. Chapter 398, Grand Ceremony Celebration, promoted to 4th grade spiritual root. _1. 3 days later, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge returned to Qingzhou Mountain. Husband, Sister Miaoge, Dad, Mom, Auntie. Seeing Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge return, the wives and children of the Lu family instantly created a commotion. Reunions with family were always bustling, and after chatting and eating a meal together, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge stood up to pay their respects to the fourth elder. They were prepared to share the news of becoming a second-rank talisman master with the fourth elder. Yuner, call little Yuner and come visit grandma with me. Lu Changsheng also called for his wife, Lu Miaoyun, and son, Lu Yun. Lately, the fourth elder's favorite had been her own son, Lu Yun. Lu Yun had also turned 12, and 2 months earlier, he had begun qi refinement, achieving the induction of qi into the body. Now, he had 4 children who had begun cultivation, achieving the induction of qi into the body. But there was no new achievement reward triggered. This made Lu Changsheng quietly wonder in his heart if the number had to reach 10 to trigger subsequent draws. At the same time, he was curious if his children could obtain a draw reward if they broke through to the middle stage of qi refinement. Yes, husband. Lu Miaoyan was not at all surprised. Every time Lu Changsheng returned, he would pay a visit to the fourth elder. She immediately called over her son Lu Yun. However, hearing the news, their daughter Lu Yu also followed along. Facing this, she naturally wouldn't refuse and brought along the several children. The group arrived at the fourth elder's courtyard. Changsheng, Yuner, Miaoge, why have all of you come? The fourth elder, with her hair elegantly coiffed into a silver bun, was dressed in a deep azure robe, basking in the sun in the backyard. Upon seeing Lu Changsheng and the others, a smile immediately graced her face. We've come to see you, Lu Changsheng said with a smile. Great-grandma. The children approached the elderly woman and sweetly called out, Ah, my dears. The fourth elder looked at the children with a kindly smile, touched their heads, and retrieved spirit fruits and sweet treats from her storage bag. The butler Zizhu also came forward with tea. The family chatted with the elder. Changsheng, how are your talisman-making skills these days? After chatting for a while, the fourth elder inquired about Lu Changsheng's talisman-making skill. This was something she always cared to ask about every time. She worried that Lu Changsheng might divert his attention and neglect the talisman path. Grandma, I came here this time to tell you that I've successfully drawn a second-rank talisman. Lu Changsheng replied with a smile. What, Changsheng? You've advanced to second-rank talisman master. The fourth elder was shocked and incredulous upon hearing Lu Changsheng's words. Lu Miaoyun and the children at her side were also surprised and incredulously happy, looking at their husband and father. They naturally understood what successfully drawing a second-rank talisman signified. It meant that Lu Changsheng had stepped in a second rank, essentially becoming a second-rank talisman master. Currently, there was not a single second-rank talisman master in all of Qingzhou Mountain. Yet now, their husband and father had become a second-rank talisman master. The news filled them with boundless joy and pride. Yes, Grandma. A few days ago, I was fortunate to successfully draw a Thunder Fire talisman. So after arranging marketplace affairs with Sister Miaoge, I came back to tell you the news. Lu Changsheng said to the elder before him. After speaking, he handed over the Thunder Fire talisman he had successfully drawn for the fourth elder to examine. The fourth elder took the Thunder Fire talisman, inspecting it carefully and with great interest in her hands. The several youngsters, although they did not understand, were curious and piqued at the talisman. They had never seen a second-rank talisman before. Good. Changsheng, you haven't let Grandma down. After examining the talisman for a while, the fourth elder took a deep breath and expressed her approval repeatedly, her face beaming with joy and unable to contain her happiness. At her age, she had already seen and let go of many things. The only things she still kept in mind were the prosperity of the family and the accomplishments of her descendants. Lu Changsheng, as her grandson-in-law, had been treated like her own grandson and was laden with her high expectations. Now, seeing that her beloved grandson had achieved the rank of second-rank talisman master, she was truly delighted from the bottom of her heart. This is also thanks to your continuous guidance, Grandma, as well as the second-rank heritage and annotations on talisman making you gave me. Otherwise, Changsheng wouldn't have been able to reach this step so quickly. Lu Changsheng said with a beaming smile. You don't have to flatter Grandma, spouting these nice words. The fact that you've reached this step is all thanks to your own efforts and talent. The help Grandma can offer is limited, the fourth elder said with a laugh. She naturally knew that Lu Changsheng was flattering her. After all, she had never been stingy with her guidance and teaching for Lu Miaoge. Initially, she had even invested more effort in Lu Miaoge. Yet compared to Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoge was clearly no match. Have you told the family head about this matter? The fourth elder asked aloud. Not yet, Sister Miaoge, and I just got back not long ago and came straight here to tell you the news. Lu Changsheng replied. Changsheng, that's very thoughtful of you. Such a joyous occasion also needs to be reported to the family head and the elders, so the family can hold a grand celebration. The fourth elder said, holding her grandson-in-law's hand with a face full of gratification. Now that the family had produced a second-rank talisman master, they wouldn't keep it under wraps. A grand celebration was in order. Perhaps even a grand ceremony, inviting neighboring families, spreading the news far and wide, to elevate the family's prestige. A grand celebration for this seems a bit much, Lu Changsheng said with a twitch in his mouth upon hearing this. He hadn't expected that merely advancing to a second-rank talisman master would warrant a grand ceremony. Usually, at least a breakthrough to foundation establishment would warrant such a grand ceremony. It's necessary. It's necessary. This is about becoming a second-rank talisman master, our Lu family's very first. It must be celebrated properly. Chapter 399, Grand Ceremony Celebration, promoted to 4th grade spiritual root. The fourth elder said with a chuckle. Then, he looked at Lu Miaoge and said, Miaoge, how is your talisman making going now? Fourth grandma, I'm also preparing to try drawing second-rank talismans, Lu Miaoge said with a gentle smile. Under Lu Changsheng's usual guidance and teaching, she had also made continuous progress in talisman making. Now, in the realm of 1st grade, she belonged to the top-level talisman masters and could attempt to practice second-rank talismans. Very good, very good. You and Changsheng should communicate more. Who knows, maybe our Lu family will have 2 second-grade talisman masters in the future, the fourth elder said, feeling somewhat excited at the thought. Although a second-grade talisman master wasn't as prestigious as a foundation establishment great cultivator, their status and identity were still extraordinary. Even foundation establishment great cultivators would show them some respect. If Xianxia Mountain had 2 second-grade talisman masters stationed there, it would rise and prosper even more. Don't worry, Grandma, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge said to the elder with a smile, nodding their agreement. Congratulations to my husband on advancing to second-grade talisman master. At this moment, Lu Miaoyan also beamed with joy as she congratulated Lu Changsheng. Looking at her handsome husband before her, she couldn't help but remember how, when Lu Changsheng became a middle-grade talisman master, the family had arranged for her to marry him. More than a decade had passed in the blink of an eye. The once son-in-law of the Lu family had become a family elder, advancing to second-grade talisman master. This filled her heart with joy, but also with a tinge of melancholy. Feeling that her husband was so powerful and outstanding, yet her own cultivation level was still stuck at the bottleneck of the 6th-level energy refinement, and she hardly had any way to help Lu Changsheng. Congratulations, Daddy, congratulations, Daddy. The children nearby also immediately congratulated Lu Changsheng. Ha ha, very good, very good. Lu Changsheng laughed and nodded. Let's go, Changsheng. It'll take you to see the ancestor, the fourth elder said, eager to announce the news to Lu Yuanzhou. Yes, Grandma, Lu Changsheng replied, as it was his first time seeing the elder in such a state. So he went along with her. Straight away, the fourth elder took Lu Changsheng to the Qingzhou Great Hall to see the family head, Lu Miaochang. What? Changsheng, you've advanced to second-grade talisman master. The new family head of the Lu family was equally overjoyed at the news of Lu Changsheng's advancement. After all, the addition of second-grade talisman master meant an increase in the depth of the Lu family's resources. It would not only make the business of the Lu family's spirit talisman shop better, but would also add to their external deterrence. Moreover, they could attract some talisman master guest elders to serve the family through Lu Changsheng, the second-grade talisman master. Immediately, he was thrilled and excited to send a message to Lu Yuanzhong. This foundation establishment ancestor, Lu Yuanzhong, spent most of his days cultivating in seclusion deep in Qingzhou Valley. Except for major family matters, or events like previously in Red Leaf Valley, such as auctions, he rarely went out. Soon after, an escape light from the depths of Qingzhou Valley flew towards them. It was the Lu family ancestor, Lu Yuanzhong. Through his foundation establishment late-stage divine sense, Lu Changsheng recognized the ancestor's cultivation level at a glance. Foundation establishment second level. Considering the time, it was within expectations. It had been over 7 years since the great battle between the Lu family and the Chun family, and by that time, Lu Yuanzhong had already broken through to foundation establishment. Now, 7 or 8 years later, advancing from the first level to the second level of foundation establishment was quite normal. After all, like energy refinement, the small realms of first, second, and third level of foundation establishment did not have bottlenecks. It was only when advancing from the third to the fourth level, from the early to the middle stage of foundation establishment, that bottlenecks were encountered. Fourth Aunt, Changsheng, you are here too. Is there something wrong? Lu Yuanzhong asked as he looked at everyone. Although he was the Lu family ancestor, he didn't usually put on airs in private. Ancestor. Lu Miaochang immediately relayed the information about Lu Changsheng becoming a second-grade talisman master to Lu Yuanzhong. A second-grade talisman master. Very good, excellent. Lu Yuanzhong, the foundation establishment ancestor, repeated, his eyes shining with delight as he praised the news. As the family's foundation establishment ancestor, the pressure on him was immense. The entire family relied on him for support. He could not afford the slightest accident. If anything happened to him, the whole family would be affected. Now, with Lu Changsheng as a second-grade talisman master, at least the family's outward circumstances would improve. After all, it was success with the Red Leaf Valley Chun family that made them, and defeat by them as well. Initially, by relying on the defeat of the Chun family to establish the Red Leaf Valley marketplace, the family gained a batch of spirit stone resources, setting them on an upward trajectory. But also because of this, Red Leaf Valley marketplace was targeted by many forces. If the Lu family encountered any trouble, those people would pounce like fierce tigers. Changsheng, the joyous occasion of your advancement to second-grade talisman master naturally calls for a grand celebration, Lu Yuanzhong declared. How about we choose an auspicious day to hold a ceremony, invite guests far and wide, and celebrate properly, he suggested, looking at Lu Changsheng. His thoughts aligned with the fourth elders. He hoped Lu Changsheng would hold a grand ceremony to announce it far and wide, to make sure the neighboring families knew that the Lu family had a second-grade talisman master in residence. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng didn't say anything. If it were up to him, he wouldn't really want to make such a fuss. After all, it was only a second-grade talisman master. No need for such splendor. But looking at Lu Yuanzhong, the fourth elder, and Lu Miaochang, he roughly understood their thoughts and meanings. The current situation of the Lu family required a raise in the family's prestige. A second-grade talisman master could bring a significant increase in prestige for the Lu family. Ancestor, although I've successfully drawn a second-rank talisman, the success rate is too low, so I don't consider myself a true second-grade talisman master, Lu Changsheng said. Therefore, in my view, the matter of this grand ceremony is not urgent, he concluded. Chapter 400, Grand Ceremony Celebration, promoted to 4th grade spiritual root. Once I'm more familiar with second-rank talismans and my success rate in talisman making improves, it won't be too late to hold the ceremony. Lu Chongqing mused for a moment. Since a grand ceremony was involved, there could be disruptions with people causing trouble, provocation, or even questioning it. Although he was equipped with second-grade talisman-making skills and feared no challenges or doubts, it wouldn't be good to show his remarkable abilities too soon after becoming a second-grade talisman master. Therefore, he would wait and, should such a situation arise, he would be better prepared to address it. All right, let's follow Changxing's suggestion. Just let Miao Chong know when you're ready, Lu Yuanzhong said, nodding his head upon hearing this. He found Lu Changxing's words to make sense. Good, Changsheng, just let me know when you're ready. Lu Miaochong immediately nodded and said. He also mentioned that if Lu Changxing needed to draw from the family's talisman-making materials, he could simply speak to him directly. As for the other benefits, since Lu Changsheng was already a family elder, there was no way to promote him further. They could only increase his monthly supply of materials for second-grade talisman making. To this, Lu Changsheng didn't have much to say. He was aware that a family's resources were limited and that they couldn't completely dedicate them to supporting one person's advancement to second-grade talisman master. That night, what's on your mind? Lu Changsheng noticed that his wife, Lu Miaoyun, seemed to be preoccupied with thoughts. Husband, am I useless? Lu Miaoyun looked up with pursed lips and asked. Lu Changsheng, upon hearing this, had a hunch that his revealing of being a second-grade talisman master today might have put pressure on Lu Miaoyun, making her feel insecure, so he couldn't help but think more about it. He immediately reassured his wife by holding her delicate shoulders, saying, How could that be? If it wasn't for you managing our home so well, how could I focus on cultivating the talisman path with such ease? You shouldn't overthink it. We are husband and wife, bound to progress together for the rest of our lives. Lu Changsheng embraced his wife, comforting her with his warm voice. Despite typically being knowledgeable and sensible, the epitome of the wise matron managing the household well, Lu Changxing knew that Lu Miaoyun was actually of a more delicate and gentle nature. Now, facing his situation, she, as his wife, felt some pressure, which made him think further. Husband. Lu Miaoyun's moist and glossy lips barely parted as she stared blankly at her own husband. Your husband is here, always by your side. Don't overthink things. If you have something on your mind, just speak to me about it directly. Lu Changsheng looked at her face, beautiful as the blooming flowers, and spoke with a tender voice. He wasn't a heartless man. Although marrying and having children were parts of his life, he would still fulfill his responsibilities. A virtuous wife supports my lofty aspirations. In turn, it'll reward my virtuous wife with a wealth of gold. Husband. Lu Miaoyun's eyelashes trembled slightly as she called out softly, nestling into Lu Changsheng's embrace. Let's sleep. Lu Changsheng chuckled softly, revealing his wife's previously cute and naive side. As Lu Miaoyun heard his words, she softly replied, the tick-tock of her lashes indicating her tranquil state as she gradually fell asleep. Lu Changsheng watched his petite, lovely wife in his arms, listening to her steady breathing, feeling a profound sense of peace in his heart. Time flew like water, and in the blink of an eye, half a year passed. On this day, Lu Changsheng was accompanying Xianxia on a stroll through the streets. Being 6 months pregnant, Xianxia's belly was quite obvious now. And as the pregnancy progressed, this normally aloof and pure fairy of the Moon Palace was no longer as indifferent as before. She would occasionally touch her protruding belly with a look of maternal radiance on her face. Changsheng, the baby is kicking me, Xianxia said, acting coquettishly to Lu Changsheng as she felt the baby's movements. All right, I've noted it, and once he is born, they'll discipline him for you. Lu Changsheng immediately stroked the fairy's jade-like belly, speaking softly. Humph! What kind of father holds a grudge against his own child? Xianxia said, pinching Lu Changsheng in response. If someone bullies my wife, of course, they'll hold a grudge. Lu Changsheng hummed. Just then, a mysterious tremor came, accompanied by the sound of a system notification. Congratulations, host, for reaching a count of 35 descendants with spiritual roots. You have earned one lottery opportunity. This mysterious vibration was not a fleeting one. Rather, it caused a tremor throughout his body, filling Lu Changsheng's heart with an indescribable joy. He knew that his spiritual root had ascended. It had advanced from a 5th-grade spiritual root to a 4th-grade spiritual root. This child's spiritual root is at least a 5th grade, and possibly even a 4th grade. Lu Changsheng thought to himself with excitement. Previously, he had only 3 descendants with a 6th-grade spiritual root. With such lower-grade spiritual roots, it was somewhat difficult for his own 5th-grade spiritual root to advance to a 4th grade. Now that his own spiritual root had directly advanced to 4th grade, he knew that this child's spiritual root was exceptionally good. It's about time. After having 141 children, I've finally had a stroke of good luck. Lu Changsheng muttered to himself. However, glancing at Xianxia beside him, he held his peace, reined in his spirit, and pretended as if nothing had happened, continuing to stroll with her casually. After the two had wandered for another half an hour, they returned to their cave dwelling. And at that time, Lu Changsheng went to the quiet room by himself. System. Lu Changsheng mentally called out. Name. Lu Changsheng. Identity. 9th Elder of Qingzhou Mountain. Cultivation level. Foundation establishment. 1st layer. Lifespan. 35/269. Talent. 4th grade spiritual root. Gungjin body constitution. Intermediate spiritual body. Cultivation technique. 100 refinements treasure body art. 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture. Yin-yang harmony technique. Immortal beauty technique. Spells. 7 luminaries sword light. 7 luminaries sword shield. 7 luminaries sword. Escape. Items. 9 treasure jade re. Luminous treasure tree. Golden armor bean mother. Black dragon magical bead. Book of malevolent curses and fates. Life substituting talisman. Profound origin bead. Coagulation crystal elixir. Skills. Talisman making 2nd rank. Puppetry 2nd rank. Spirit slaughterer 2nd rank. Spiritual pets. 9 netherhound. Peach blossom goo. 6-winged golden silkworm. Hope goo. Descendants. 141 of 144. A 4th grade spiritual root. Just one more step. And he'll have an upper grade spiritual root. Lu Changsheng looked at the accurately displayed 4th grade spiritual root on the system panel, feeling elated. Then he glanced at the descendant section. With a slight move of his spirit, he found his newly born child. Name, unnamed, lifespan, 179th talent, 4th grade spiritual root, cultivation level. The 4th grade spiritual root, it really is a 4th grade. Lu Changsheng looked at this child with great surprise. He had previously guessed that this child was at least a 5th grade spiritual root, and possibly even a 4th grade. Now, seeing it confirmed on the system panel, he was finally assured. With a 4th grade spiritual root, apart from Qingshan, this child has the best talent among all my children. Lu Changsheng was very pleased. The most talented of his children was originally Lu Qingshan with a 6th grade spiritual root, who possessed the Gungjin body constitution. This child's 4th grade spiritual root, although not as good as Lu Qingshan's, was still quite excellent. He believed that, with his guidance, this child would have no trouble achieving foundation establishment in the future. A 4th grade spiritual root, if I so desire, I could even consider sending him to an immortal sect later. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. For my current situation, it won't have any noticeable effect on the major bottleneck of core formation in the future. If I could advance my spiritual root to a heavenly spiritual root before core formation, then breaking through would pose no bottleneck at all. Lu Changsheng thought to himself. He could not help but look forward to the day when he would be blessed with a stroke of luck, spawning a child with a heavenly spiritual root. That way, his spiritual root would be perfected in one fell swoop, sparing him the slow grind. Shaking his head to dispel these impractical fantasies, Lu Changsheng stepped out of the meditation room. After chatting with Xianxia for a while, he left the cave dwelling and went to the Lu family spiritual talisman shop. Daddy. Upon arriving on the third floor, Lu Qingzhu, who was quietly reading a book by herself, saw Lu Changsheng and called out sweetly, "Little Zhu, where is your mother?" Lu Changsheng, seeing his daughter alone, showed a gentle smile and asked. His daughter was 6 years old now, even more adorable in appearance. With her chubby and baby-soft cheeks, he couldn't help but pinch them. "Mommy is in the room drawing talismans," Lu Qingzhu said in a sweet, milky voice. Guessing that there must be a customer who ordered or needed a specific talisman, Lu Changsheng didn't go to disturb Lu Miaoge. He walked over and sat beside his daughter, asking, "What are you looking at, little Zhu?" "Daddy, look." Lu Qingzhu handed the album she was holding to Lu Changsheng. Upon seeing the adorable Earth Spirit mouse, Lu Qingzhu's sparkling eyes widened even further. Her little head moved slightly forward, and she leaned in to get a closer look at the Earth Spirit mouse. "Behave yourself." Lu Changsheng, holding the hamster, gave it a few rubs and conveyed his thoughts to the Earth Spirit mouse through the beast control token. He clearly remembered that this Earth Spirit mouse possessed no small amount of spiritual intelligence. It even knew how to acknowledge someone as an adoptive father. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The Earth Spirit mouse immediately responded to Lu Changsheng. It showed that the mouse was the most well-behaved and sensible one. Lu Changsheng believed this as well. He dared to bring this Earth Spirit mouse out for his daughter to play with because he had researched information about it and knew its temperament. Though it possessed an Earth-grade bloodline, it was as timid as a mouse. Aside from running away, it wouldn't really fight. Its primary use was treasure hunting. It had an extremely keen sense of smell for spiritual medicine, heavenly materials, and earthly treasures, or even for spirit minerals and spirit veins. It could also sniff a particular medicine, heavenly material, or earthly treasure, and as long as someone had touched the spiritual medicine or treasure within a short period, it could sniff them out. Plainly speaking, it was very sensitive to spiritual energy and spiritual mechanisms. "Come here, little Zhu." Lu Changsheng spread out his hand, letting his daughter touch the golden hamster. With him beside her, he wasn't worried about how the Earth Spirit mouse would behave. If it did anything unexpected, he could stop it immediately. "Oh." Lu Qingzhu stretched out her delicate little hand and carefully touched the Earth Spirit mouse. Although the Earth Spirit mouse was only palm-sized for an adult, that is, to a 6-year-old little girl, it was still quite big. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The Earth Spirit mouse played along well, realizing that this scary person brought it to entertain the human child. It immediately rubbed its little head against Lu Qingzhu's small hand. "Oh, Daddy." Lu Qingzhu was startled, then grew bolder and petted the Earth Spirit mouse, calling out to Lu Changsheng. "Here, you take it." Lu Changsheng smiled and handed over the Earth Spirit mouse to his daughter. "Oh." Lu Qingzhu immediately cradled the golden hamster in her hands and rubbed it in her arms, her little face beaming with happiness. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The Earth Spirit mouse continued to cooperate. "Little Zhu, you can feed it this." Lu Changsheng took out a bottle of spirit-nourishing pills, poured one out, and handed it to his daughter to feed to the Earth Spirit mouse. After all, feeding a pet was also a form of joy. "Oh." Lu Qingzhu cradled the Earth Spirit mouse with one arm while feeding it the spirit-nourishing pill with the other. Immediately, the little golden hamster showed its 2 teeth, began nibbling on the elixir medicines, and happily squeaked. In its spiritual pet bag, because Lu Changsheng was so busy he had forgotten about it, it often had to go without food. This made it learn to eat the spirit-nourishing pills sparingly. So, getting an extra meal today made it extremely happy. Daddy, look. After a while, Lu Qingzhu watched the earth spirit mouse nibble on the elixir medicines by itself, her mouth forming a surprised O, and called out to Lu Changsheng. Little Zhu, do you like this mouse? Lu Changsheng asked his daughter. If his daughter said she liked it, he would give this earth spirit mouse to Lu Qingzhu. After all, it was just sitting on him and used, so it would be better if it became a companion for his daughter. His daughter spent most of her time on Qingzhu Mountain and only occasionally visited the Red Leaf Valley Market. Chapter 403 100 Steeds Towering Pagoda Lock. The mouse sees the sun again. He didn't have to worry about being targeted by Meng Yabai's false core elder. After all, if the elder could really track him down through an earth spirit mouse, he would have already done so. Moreover, although earth spirit mice are rare, they aren't so rare that people would think too much upon seeing one. Daddy, like. Lu Qingzhu looked at the earth spirit mouse in her hand, then turned towards Lu Changsheng, her sparkling eyes brimming with affection. Since that's the case, Daddy will give this little mouse to my little Zhu. Lu Changsheng said with a smile. Oh, thank you, Daddy. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingzhu's little face showed her happiness. Then she put down the hamster, stood up, and reached out both her arms towards Lu Changsheng. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng picked up his daughter. Mua. Once picked up, Lu Qingzhu immediately planted a strong kiss on her daddy's face. She knew her daddy liked to kiss her cheeks to show his affection. So she kissed Lu Changsheng back to show her affection. Ha! Such a good girl, Mua. Lu Changsheng laughed heartily, promptly nibbling on his daughter's chubby cheeks. Changsheng, you're back. What's making you so happy? At this moment, the door to the talisman room opened. Lu Miaoge, clad in a snow-white dress, her visage gentle and lovely, walked out. Seeing the father and daughter so joyous, a beautiful smile graced her face as she spoke. Hee, seeing my darling daughter and wife naturally makes me happy. Lu Changsheng said with a smile. Still so slick-tongued, even though you're a father now. Lu Miaoge responded with a quip, rolling her eyes affectionately at Lu Changsheng while smiling sweetly. Oh, Mommy Mousy. At that moment, Lu Qingzhu in Lu Changsheng's arms pointed towards the earth spirit mouse, which had finished gnawing on the spirit pill, and called out to Lu Miaoge. Mouse it. Lu Miaoge looked to the side and instantly noticed the earth spirit mouse. After scrutinizing it for a moment, she turned to Lu Changsheng and asked in surprise, Is this a seeking spirit mouse? In the cultivation world, there were numerous spiritual beasts with treasure-seeking abilities. These were particularly common among rodents. Due to their similar appearance, it was difficult to distinguish between them. Therefore, many referred to these treasure-seeking rodent spiritual beasts collectively as seeking spirit mice. That's right, it's a seeking spirit mouse. I saw this seeking spirit mouse at a stall earlier and thought about buying it to look for treasure later, but then I realized that I hardly ever leave the house. After a short while, Lu Miaoge came back. She looked at her well-behaved and quiet daughter, chatting idly with Lu Changsheng. Changsheng, how familiar are you with the Thunderfire Talisman now? At that moment, Lu Miaoge inquired. I'm about 40 or 50% confident. Lu Changsheng said out loud. That fast? Lu Miaoge exclaimed with surprise and delight on her face. This success rate was not low. After all, a second-rank low-grade talisman could bring about a 20-fold profit. Even with a success rate of 10 or 20%, one could roughly make money. Of course, that was not counting the accumulated practice over days and months. Like Lu Miaoge, who is currently practicing second-rank talismans, she practiced only once per day when she was at her best condition. After all, the practice cost of over 20 spirit stones was truly heart-wrenching. Even if the Lu family's talisman paper was made from their own jade spirit bamboo, costing only the price of materials, it was still painful. It's okay, isn't it? I've been improving a bit every month. Lu Changsheng said with a smile. Who makes progress every month? Lu Miaoge felt somewhat struck by her husband's words. Talisman making, much like cultivation, often faced bottlenecks that could last a lifetime without progress. Even worse, if one's mentality was affected, one could regress on the talisman path. Possibly even the talismans they were once able to draw would get worse. Yeah, that's what's happening to me right now. Lu Changsheng said with laughter. Yes, my husband is the greatest. Lu Miaoge's face broke into an indulgent smile. She then inquired, by the way, Changsheng, when do you plan to hold your second-grade Talisman Master ceremony? In a few more months, I guess. They'll wait until my success rate improves a bit and I get familiar with a few other talismans, then I'll notify the family head. Lu Changsheng said thoughtfully. In his view, after holding the ceremony, he would definitely be busy for a while. Now that Xianxia was about 4 months away from giving birth. If he were to inform the Lu family now, preparing and sending out invitations would take about a month or two. The timing could easily overlap. So he planned to wait until after Xianxia had given birth before organizing the ceremony. Lu Miaoge nodded. She knew that the talisman path was analogous to other skills. Once proficient in one type of talisman, mastering others would become much easier. She thought her husband truly approached things with a steady hand. Even for a ceremony, he insisted on being fully prepared. This was also thanks to her husband's exceptional talent and rapid progress on the talisman path. Otherwise, for someone else to do the same might take 3 to 5 years, or even longer toil. He would still go back every month or two to handle various matters, check on his wives and children, and additionally, work on conceiving more children. Now, the total number of his children had reached 146. After returning to Qingzhou Mountain, as usual, Lu Changsheng inquired about the cultivation situations of his children and Bai Ling. His son Lu Xianji had been stuck at the middle stage of qi refinement and remained at the 3rd level. Lu Changsheng hadn't given him any breakthrough elixir, allowing him to gradually overcome the bottleneck on his own. After all, using breakthrough elixirs at this stage would inevitably affect later progress. Despite being a 9th-grade spiritual root with basically no potential for further growth, Lu Changsheng believed it was best to break through on one's own if possible, and there was no rush for time. Lu Qianjin had also reached the 3rd level of qi refinement. His daughters Lu Rui and Lu Yun, on the other hand, were at the 2nd level. As for Bai Ling, she had long since broken through to the 4th level of qi refinement, and it was estimated that before long, she would reach the 5th level. This pace left Lu Changsheng astounded. In just 3 short years, even without his provision of elixir medicines, she had cultivated to the 4th level of qi refinement and was close to breaking through to the 5th level. Just then, a relatively dense cultivation level surged into Lu Changsheng's body from nowhere. He immediately knew that his son, Lu Xianji, had broken through the bottleneck of the middle stage of qi refinement. He had reached the 4th level of energy refinement. The 4th level of energy refinement, if not counting the quality of spiritual power and mana, is about 1% of my current cultivation level. It's equivalent to saving me a month and a half of arduous cultivation. Lu Changsheng closed his eyes to feel the incoming cultivation strength and roughly estimated. If we calculate this way, 100 cultivators at the 4th level of energy refinement would be equal to 1 foundation establishment. However, the quality difference in mana allows a foundation establishment cultivator to easily slaughter 100 cultivators in the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Changsheng shook his head slightly, knowing such calculations were not feasible. But reaching the middle stage of energy refinement at least has some effect on me. When breaking through to the second and third levels of energy refinement earlier, there was no perceivable impact on me. Now that I'm at the foundation establishment level, for my children to impact me, they need to be at the late stage of chi refinement. But waiting for a child to cultivate to the late stage of energy refinement will probably take another 10 to 20 years. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. The path of cultivation seemed long and distant. After all, aside from Lu Qingshan and the previously mentioned son with a 4th grade spiritual root, Lu Qingxian, the spiritual roots of his current children were mediocre at best. There were only 2 with 6th grade middle spiritual roots. All the others were of lower grade spiritual roots. But indeed, as I suspected, there was no achievement reward for the child breaking through to the middle stage of chi refinement. Could it be that such cultivation-related achievement rewards won't trigger again until they break through to foundation establishment? If that's the case, it's way too difficult. Lu Changsheng saw no system notification and shook his head inwardly. Although he had anticipated this, he still held a faint hope. He wanted to see if breaking through to the middle stage of chi refinement would trigger an achievement reward. Xinji is also 15 or 16 now. Having broken through to the middle stage of chi refinement, it's time to let him gain some experience in Red Leaf Valley Market. Seeing Lu Xianxi's breakthrough to the middle stage of chi refinement, Lu Changsheng thought about his son, who was no longer young. He planned to let him go out to broaden his horizon and get tempered. After all, flowers cannot be grown in a greenhouse. These children were his future foundation. They would need them to manage the family later on. Even with average spiritual roots, they must be well cultivated. Chapter 406: Open Sources and Save Expenditures, the 99 Mysterious Talisman Scriptures. Therefore, in his heart, Lu Xinji still held immense admiration and respect for his own father. Your father strives hard in the hope that your path will be smoother and you will go farther than I have. Upon hearing his son's words, Lu Changsheng smiled and patted him on the shoulder, saying, he then continued, now that you've broken through to the middle stage of chi refinement, I plan to take you to the marketplace to broaden your horizons and gain some experience. What do you think? Son will follow father's arrangements. Upon hearing this, Lu Xinji immediately nodded in agreement. Having been in Qingzhou Mountain for so many years, he naturally yearned for the cultivation world and wanted to go out and see it for himself. Good, prepare yourself. Tomorrow, come with me to the Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Changsheng nodded his head and said. He told Lu Xinji to go and say farewell to the family and friends. Congratulations, brother Xinji. Congratulations to the 7th brother for breaking through to the middle stage of chi refinement. The other children in the courtyard, upon hearing that Lu Xinji had broken through to the middle stage of chi refinement and that Lu Changsheng was going to take him to the Red Leaf Valley Market, expressed their envy and congratulations. Lu Miaoyun, Lu Miaohuan, and Chu Jinjin, the aunties, also heard the news and each gave gifts to encourage him. After all, being the first child in the family to break through to the middle stage of chi refinement had its special significance and was worth celebrating. Under these circumstances, Lu Xinji seemed to take on a bit more responsibility. Although he was the 7th in the family, those ranked ahead of him like Lu Pinggan, due to the lack of a spiritual root, had all been sent into the secular world. Therefore, in Qingzhou Mountain, he was effectively the eldest, bearing the responsibilities of an older brother. After a small celebration, the next day, Lu Changsheng rode atop an iron feather eagle, taking his son, Lu Xinji, with him to the Red Leaf Valley Market. First, he took Lu Xinji to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop to meet Lu Miaoga. Although he planned to have Lu Xinji stay at the Peace Talisman Hall, he had to bring him over to meet with her since he was here. With him often absent, Lu Xinji could come to Lu Miaoga if he had any issues. In the Red Leaf Valley Market, Lu Miaoga was quite an influential figure. Xinji, feel free to come by your auntie's place when you have the time. Lu Miaoga said with a gentle and amiable expression. She was much more well off than the other wives and concubines of Lu Changsheng and gave Lu Xinji a magic artifact as a gift. Many thanks, Annie. Lu Xinji seldom met with this Annie, Lu Miaoga, and did not feel very close to her, slightly restrained. After accepting the gift, he bowed respectfully. After a brief chat, Lu Changsheng took Lu Xinji to visit the Peace Talisman Hall. Peace Talisman Hall, Dad, is this our family shop? Lu Xinji looked at the shop in front of him and asked aloud. He knew that besides owning 100 mu of spiritual land on Qingzhou Mountain, his father also owned a spirit talisman shop and a mansion in the Red Leaf Valley Market. The reason why he and his siblings had such comfortable conditions was due to this spiritual land and the shop and mansion. That's right, this is our family's spirit talisman shop. Lu Changxing nodded and said, I didn't bring you here to learn talisman making. Instead, I want you to broaden your horizons and understand the ins and outs of managing a shop doing business. Aren't you interested in puppets? Now that you've broken through to the middle stage of qi refinement, you can spend some time on this. If there's anything you don't understand, come and ask your father. Once you become a puppet master, your father will open a shop for you. Lu Changsheng spoke to his son. His son might not have a talent for talisman making, but he did have some for puppets. Since he had just begun cultivation, Lu Changsheng hadn't wanted him to be distracted by puppets. Now that he had broken through to the middle stage of qi refinement, Lu Changsheng was willing to let him spend some time on it. After all, the art of puppets was also an important part of his future that needed to be passed on. Yes, father. Upon hearing this, Lu Xinji looked at the words Peace Talisman Hall and pursed his lips, showing determination in his eyes. Shopkeeper. Shopkeeper. As the two entered the shop, the greeters and shopkeeper Gao, he immediately greeted them resoundingly. Xinji, this is your Uncle Gao. Lu Changsheng introduced to Lu Xinji. Uncle Gao. Lu Xinji promptly called out. On the way over, Lu Changsheng had briefly explained the situation of the spiritual talisman shop. He knew that this man with a round face and slightly aged appearance was a shopkeeper of the spirit talisman shop. Old Gao, this is my son, Lu Xinji. I plan to place him in the shop as an apprentice to gain some experience and understand how the shop is managed. You won't need to teach him about making talismans, but it'll trouble you to instruct him in other aspects. Lu Changsheng spoke to his old friend Gao He. The two had known each other for more than 10 years and had been employer and employee for 6 years. Since Lu Changsheng had always been an absent shop owner, and Gao He managed the shop well, their personal relationship remained quite good. Sure, no problem. Chapter 407. Save and Earn 99 Mysterious Talisman Scriptures. _4. He and Xianxia were both Foundation establishment cultivators and naturally were able to sense the general condition of the child. There were no issues with vitality. Therefore, there was a high probability that the child possessed a fairly good spiritual root or even a spiritual body. Thus, Lu Changsheng awaited the birth of the child with a calm heart and anticipation. Before the child was born, 7 days later, a faint flow of energy, accompanied by a system notification, sounded. Congratulations to the host. 5 offspring have completed the absorption of qi into their bodies, stepping onto the path of cultivation, and received the bloodline effect. A 5% increase in the probability of the offspring's spiritual roots and 1 lottery draw. 5. Kursin has completed the absorption of qi into her body. Through this flow of energy and the system notification, Lu Changsheng knew that his 5th child with a spiritual root, Lu Kursin, had completed the absorption of qi into her body. He wasn't surprised by this. After all, according to the timing, Lu Kursin should have completed it by now. Now that it was done, it was even slower than those like Lu Xinji and the others before her. It was just slightly surprising that an achievement lottery was triggered with just 5 children. He had thought it would take 10. But this increase is quite good. At this rate, want all my future descendants basically have a spiritual root. Lu Changsheng, seeing the increase in the probability of his offspring's spiritual roots, nodded slightly with joy. After all, his children were his foundation. System, draw the lottery. Lu Changsheng exhaled lightly and began the lottery draw. A pale red virtual lottery wheel appeared and quickly started spinning. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the cultivation technique, 99 Mystical Talisman Scripture. The reward has been issued to the system space, where the host can check it at any time. An image of a translucent jade scroll appeared, accompanied by the system notification. 99 Mystical Talisman Scripture? A talisman inheritance? Lu Changsheng, seeing this cultivation technique, raised an eyebrow slightly, showing a trace of interest. The cultivation world possessed 100 arts of cultivation. Each art was profoundly complex and could evolve into a path. Although he had a second-rank, full-level talisman-making skill, it was merely an array of basic talisman skills. He did not possess any profoundly mysterious talisman inheritance. Or rather, such profound skill inheritance was not only rare, but also required a high threshold for cultivation.